Good morning to these parliamentary proceedings this morning, Wednesday, February 26th, the fourth session of the 12th Parliament. And today in the order paper, there's quite a myriad of business. And starting us off will be order number 8, the Industrial Training Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2019, by Honorable Juden Jomo. Of course, this is the second reading. The question is to be put. And indeed, the principal objective of the bill is to amend the Industrial Training Act Cap 237 in order to provide for mechanisms of implementing the Act in terms of collecting the training levies, which is currently a function of the National Industrial Training Authority. Also in the order paper is order number 9, the Employment Amendment Bill number 2, Bill National Assembly Bill number 79 of 2019 by Honorable Gideon Keter. This will be the first reading, and the objective of this bill is to amend Section 9 of the Employment Act in order to mandate an employer to carry out background checks on prospective employees upon granting an offer of employment. Many of the unemployed consist of persons below the age of 35 years, and as a result are unable to afford clearance certificates required by employers for purposes of employment. It is therefore necessary for an employer to require an applicant to submit the mandatory requirements as a condition for confirmation of employment. Indeed, in the order paper, number 10, also by Gideon Keter, this of course will be the second reading, is the National Youth Council Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 8 of 2019. And indeed, the principal objective of this bill is to amend the National Youth Council Act to depoliticize the membership of the National Youth Council by allowing the competitive recruitment of the youth serving in the council through the Office of the Country Directors of Youth. Order number 11 is the Public Service Values and Principles Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 17 of 2019 by Honorable Andrew Mwadime. This will be the second reading. The other business that is in the order paper is the Public Order Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 14 of 2019 by the Honorable Simon Kingara. This will be the second reading. And the principal object of the bill is to, just a moment, is to provide that a public entity may only deposit funds and invest surplus funds in government-owned banks or a bank owned by the public through cooperative societies. In the order paper is also order number 13, which is the Assisted Reproductive Technology Bill, the National Assembly Bill number 34 of 2019 by the Honorable Millie Odhiambo Mabona. This will be the second reading. And the principal object of the bill is to regulate rights and obligations relating to assisted reproductive technology. The bill aims to regulate the use of assisted reproductive technologies to aid individuals or couples that have challenges conceiving due to factors associated with infertility. Furthermore, the bill aims to regulate the qualifications of health practitioners who administer assisted reproductive technology in order to protect recipients of the latter services. In addition, the bill contains provisions that define rights touching on, among others, issues relating to consents preceding assisted reproduction. As you can see, the speaker is on his way into the House. And of course, it's the Honorable Deputy Speaker, Cheboy, who's to lead business today in the morning. So as always, we welcome you to take a listen to these proceedings in conjunction on behalf of KBC and the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit. Enjoy.
Jumbe tuombe. Ewe Mwenyezi Mungu, ambaye kwa hekima na wema wako umeteua nyadhifa za viongozi na mabunge kwa ustawi wa jamii na utawala wa haki wa wanadamu, twakusihi tutazame kwa neema nyingi sisi watumishi wako ambao wameridhika kutuita ili tutekeleze shughuli hii muhimu ya jamhuri yetu. Twakuomba ututeremshie baraka zako sisi tuliokutanika hapa, na utujalie tuyatende na kufikiria mambo yote yatakayofikishwa mbele yetu kwa njia ya haki na uaminifu, ili utukufu na sifa zako ziendelezwe, na ili kustawisha amani, ufanisi na heri ya nchi hii yetu na wale ambao haja zao umezikabidhi mikononi mwetu. Amen. Order, members. Order. I think it's clear that we do not have the required quorum. I therefore order the bell to be rung for 10 minutes.
The Speaker has indicated that there is no quorum. And going back to the business, the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 22 of 2019 by the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, is the last business this morning. And the principal object of this bill is to provide that a public entity may only deposit funds and invest surplus funds in government-owned banks or a bank owned by the public through cooperative societies. The bill defines a government-owned bank as a bank in which the government owns or holds at least 20% of the bank's share capital. The bill further prohibits the practice of banks paying compensation to agents for procuring the deposit of funds from public bodies. The bill, however, does not contain any provisions limiting any fundamental right or freedom. The bill also does not affect the functions of county governments as set out in the fourth schedule to the Constitution, and is therefore not a bill concerning county governments. In the afternoon, a total of 15 businesses will be conducted in the House, and amongst this will be the procedural motion that will be sponsored by the Chairperson, Budget and Appropriations Committee, for the extension of time for consideration of the 2020 budget policy statement. And going back to the business that is there today, the Industrial Training Amendment Bill by National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2019 by Honorable June Jomo, as I had said earlier, will be second reading. The question is to be put, and as we still await for the quorum to be achieved, June Jomo, of course, is in the House. The training and skills development of Kenyans, as is carried out in the Memorandum of Objects and Reasons of this particular bill, the training and skills development of Kenyans in various industrial sectors of the country is an issue that need to be overstated, as it serves as a catalyst for social, economic, and political development of any nation. In this regard, this bill seeks to amend the Act in order to provide that the Kenya Revenue Authority shall have the mandate of assessing and collecting training levies from employers. It also provides for timelines within which employers shall remit training levies, and also that the Income Tax Act and the Kenya Revenue Authority Act shall apply in respect of payment and recovery of the levies. We can already see that the Sergeant at Arms is indicating that the quorum has been achieved. So we'll be taking you inside shortly. And continuing with the provision that this bill, that is the Industrial Training Amendment Bill, seeks to amend, is for the formula of distributing the training levies collected by the Kenya Revenue Authority. The bill, however, does not delegate legislative powers, nor does it limit fundamental rights and freedoms. The bill also does not concern county governments in terms of Article 110, Clause 1A of the Constitution, and it does not affect the function.
Order, members, take your seats, please.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
That particular order, we seem to have a handful, so we'll start with the Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Lands.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Wednesday, February 26, 2020. Report of the Departmental Committee on Lands on the vetting of Mr. Enosh Onyango Momanye for the appointment to the position of Principal Secretary, State Department for Physical Planning. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, next will be the Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing.
I thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Wednesday, February 26th, 2020. Report of the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing on the vetting of Mr. Solomon Kitungu for appointment to the position of the Principal Secretary, State Department for Transport. I thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Speaker.
Next is a Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Trade, Industry and Cooperatives.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Wednesday, February 26, 2020. Report of the Departmental Committee on Trade, Industry and Cooperatives on the vetting of Ambassador Johnson Mwangi Weru, nominee for appointment to the position of Principal Secretary, State Department for Trade and Enterprise Development. Thank you, Mr.
Very well. Now we go to the last one by the Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Education and Research.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Wednesday, February 26, 2020. Report of the Departmental Committee on Education and Research on the vetting of Dr. Julius Ouma Juan and Ambassador Simon Abukwesi for the position, for the appointment to the position of Principal Secretaries for the State Department for Vocational and Technical Training and State Department for University Education and Research, respectively. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. So we go to the next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Now we'll start again with the Honorable Dr. Rachel Nyamai, Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Lands.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that taking into consideration the findings of the Departmental Committee on Lands in its report on the vetting of the nominee for appointment as a Principal Secretary, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, February 26, 2020, and pursuant to provisions of Article 155, 3B of the Constitution, this House approves the appointment of Mr. Enosh Onyango Momanyi as the Principal Secretary, State Department of Physical Planning. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. Now we go to the Chairperson, Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing.
I thank you, Honorable Speaker, again. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that taking into consideration the findings of the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing on its report on the vetting of the nominee for appointment as a Principal Secretary, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, February 2016, 2020, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 155, Sub-Article 3B of the Constitution, this House approves the appointment of Mr. Solomon Kitungu as Principal Secretary, State Department of Transport. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. So let's have the committee chairperson, Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, Honorable Kanini Kega.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that taking into consideration the findings of the Departmental Committee on Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, and in its report, of the vetting of the nominee for appointment as Principal Secretary, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 26, 2020, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 155, 3B of the Constitution, this House approves the appointment of Ambassador Johnson Mwangiwero as the Principal Secretary, State Department of Trade and Enterprise Development. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. So we go to the next order. Next order. Oh, sorry, Honorable Melly. Actually, your matter is on a different page, and that is why I almost skipped it. So let's have the Chairperson, Committee on Education and Research, Honorable Julius Melly.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that taking into consideration the findings of the Departmental Committee on Education and Research in its report on the vetting of the nominees for the appointment as Principal Secretaries, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, February 26, 2020, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 155, 3B of the Constitution and Section 3 and 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act of 2011, this House approves the appointment of the following persons as Principal Secretaries in the respective state departments. 1, Dr. Julius Ouma Juan, Vocational and Technical Training, and 2, Ambassador Simon Abukwesi, University Education and Research. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much. So then we are through with that order. Next order.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
On this particular one, we have both the private questions by private notice and others which will be ordinary questions. So we'll start with the questions by private notice, and we'll start with the member for Lamu County, Honorable Captain Rueda Abo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to ask question number 001-2020 to the Cabinet Secretary for Health. 1, what is the status of collection, testing, and distribution of blood and blood-related product to all transfusing hospital in the country? 2, what is the quantity of blood reserved in the government blood banks under the management of Kenya National Blood Transfusion Service And is the quantity sufficient to serve casualties in case of occurrences of disaster and emergencies? 3, what challenges is the Kenyan National Blood Transfusion Service facing with regard to continued support of the project by donor agencies? 4, what measure has the ministry put in place to ensure sufficient funding of the service? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The next one will be by the member. That particular one, let me just refer it first. That one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Health. Now we go to the next one, which is the member for Mandera East, Honorable Omar Maalim. Give Honorable Maalim the mic, please.
Honorable Speaker, I want to ask a question on private notice 02/2020 to the Cabinet Secretary for Defense. 1, could the Cabinet Secretary confirm the presence within Kenya territory of a minister in charge of security of the regional government of Jubaland, Somalia, who crossed over with about 100 armed soldiers from Bulahawa in Somalia and settled at border point 1 of Mandera East constituency? 2, could the Cabinet Secretary further explain whether the Kenya Defense Forces have played any role in the continued presence of the said minister and foreign soldiers in Kenya's territory? 3, could the Cabinet Secretary explain the measures that have been put in place to mitigate against the security challenge posed by the presence of such foreign forces to the residents of Mandera East constituency and the country at large? And 4, could the Cabinet Secretary explain the legal framework under which the soldiers were permitted into and settled in Kenya territory? Mr. Speaker, I wish to state that the people of Mandera are under siege from these people.
Order, Honorable Maalim. You know you have done it in the normal way. You have asked a question. Many of those things that you want to raise, you can raise them at the committee. And I'm actually proceeding to refer this particular question to the Departmental Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations. Now we go to the questions, ordinary questions, and we'll start with the Honorable Gideon Keter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to ask a question to Cabinet Secretary for Lands and Physical Planning, that how many public schools in the country, both primary and secondary, have been issued with title deeds following the presidential directive that all public schools be issued with the said document? Secondly, is what measures has the ministry put in place to ensure that public schools and other public institutions in the country are expeditiously issued with title deeds to safeguard against irregular allocation of land they occupy? Thank you.
Very well. That one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Lands. Next is a member for Alego Usonga, Honorable Samuel Atandi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Actually, that will be the last one.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to ask question number 108 of 2020. And Honorable Speaker, I want to add that this is the second time I'm raising up this question on the floor of this House. And the first time it was bungled at the Committee of Labor and Social Protection. And I want to urge the chairman, Honorable Wario, I'm seeing him across, to ensure that justice is served on this question.
Well,
and
just leave that to me, Honorable Atandi. You can do what is yours.
Thank you. The question is addressed to the CS for Labor and Social Protection. Question number 1, is the Cabinet Secretary aware that one Mr. James Omingo Juma of ID number 0985881 was irregularly dismissed from employment by the Kenya Revenue Authority in February 1999, contrary to Section 45 of the Employment Act? Number 2, When will he be paid his dues or reinstated in, as his dismissal was overturned by the Mombasa Chief Magistrate Court, case number 2251 of 1998. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. That one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Labor and Social Welfare. So we go to the next order.
Order number 8, the Industrial Training Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2019, second reading. Question to be put.
Order, members. Order. Honorable Keter, please take your seat. Okay. Honorable members, I can confirm that we have the required quorum, and I therefore proceed to put the question, which is that the Industrial Training Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2019, be now read a second time. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Industrial Training Act. Order number 9, the Employment Amendment number 2 Bill, National Assembly Bill number 79 of 2019, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Employment Act. Order number 10, the National Youth Council Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 8 of 2019, second reading.
Honorable Keter seems to be very active this morning, but before I give Honorable Keter to move that particular bill, let me allow Honorable Wamunyinyi, on behalf of the Committee on Administration and National Security, to do what he's supposed to do. I had been informed that he was preparing himself. The chair was absent.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What I do better. Now, Mr. Speaker, I have a statement by the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security on questions referred to the committee during the past year, Mr. Speaker.
Now, what is it that you are doing? Normally, we refer to this gentleman as the Chairman General. But what is it that you are doing? Because I thought you were supposed to be, giving notice, and even before giving notice.
I will do that, Mr. Speaker.
No.
I'm just waiting for the documents from the table room.
So you don't have
in a short while, but I have a report, a statement on questions.
That report, the reason why I gave you this is because I wanted you to lay first the paper or the report, and then you would give now a notice. That is what I wanted you to do.
No,
now, the issue of the report will
Speaker,
be after that, and I'm sure, of course, you are a seasoned politician.
The chair had asked me to do this morning, Mr. Speaker.
To do what, Honorable Amunyi?
To present this statement today morning.
No. No, that is not what we had agreed with you.
Not with you, the chair yesterday, Mr. Speaker.
Well, then that one can only be done at the committee level. You know, the agreements that are made here are supposed to be between yourself and the Speaker. Now, that other agreement can only be done at the committee level where is the head. So let us have the documents ready for you. I will give you an opportunity as soon as you have those documents so that we can be able to transact it in the afternoon. Yes. So actually, what you are doing now is what you probably will do after you have cleared the normal process. So we'll proceed with Honorable Keter. Are you ready? Honorable Keter, are you ready to move that particular bill?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Now, if you are ready, I want to give direction because this is something that is very important. When you propose, and then there will be a seconder, since you are not the chair of the committee relevant, we will give the first priority to to the chairperson of that committee, so they can as well start preparing. Proceed, Honorable Keter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move that National Youth Council Amendment Bill 2019 be read the second time. Mr. Speaker, the National Youth Council Amendment Bill 2019 seek to amend the National Youth Council Act number 10 of 2009 to cure governance challenges faced by the council. This is due to the large number of the composition of the council. The previous board members were 24, which goes against the mwongozo, and also it was faced by the many challenges that comes with a large number when you want to make decisions pertaining key critical issues that are affecting the young people. Also, reducing the number aims at depoliticizing the council. The council have been faced with so many politics around who should, what are the roles of the chairman, roles of the CEO, and what kind of activities needs to be done by the council, and if there is a need for election, there is a need for nomination, and this has actually affected the operation of the council. And also, the board have been involved in a lot of politics, and the members have been involved in a lot of politics, which has in the past have affected also the operation of the council. And I would also like to tell maybe the future board members that if you want to engage in a political, forum, there are so many other avenues in which you can engage in politics. You can join a political party, but when it comes to running a parastatal like National Youth Council, you need to desist from actually participating in politics. And to anyone who has been given an opportunity to serve the young people, they need to not to let down the young people. Also, the amendment of amending the NYC was to ensure that the government fund the council. In the past, the council have been faced with financial challenges. They have never been funded. Even the board members have never been, they still have arrears. They're saying they need to be paid by, the board members have never been paid. As we speak, they are struggling even to raise salaries. They are struggling even to run the council itself. When you look at for example, even the interns, they're still being paid under below they're still being paid below the government directive that every intern needs to be paid 25,000. The act itself have been kind of obsolete because you see it was in line with the old constitution, and amending the section 10 will be able to help in deleting the obsolete terminologies like the minister, the sublocation, and the rest. Also, we aim to allow the non-executive membership for various youth organizations to offer mentorship, to offer capacity building to the council. Mr. Speaker, I would like to allow me to give an introductory background of the National Youth Council Bill. In the past, there have been no coordinated and harmonized effort to mainstream youth efforts or the youth agenda in the country. But despite the effort as well as it increase in the agencies that are dealing with the youth, problem facing young people have continued to worsen. The situation have been attributed to the lack of comprehensive policy to provide a blueprint for the development of a young person. Mr. Speaker, in the 9th Parliament, the NYC policy was discussed as session paper number 3 of July 2007. The session paper of 2007 was approved by the Parliament as a policy statement, a policy document that provided a blueprint on youth development in Kenya. It is worthwhile to know that that was an important milestone for the youth and our country as a whole. And hence, that time we had an opportunity to have NYC Bill of 2009. Currently, we are missing national youth policy development that is in line with the current constitution. It is important also, I acknowledge that previous national youth policy of 2007 have helped the country to achieve a number of key milestones in youth empowerment efforts. And notable among them is now the establishment of the National Youth Council as a representative body to advance the voice of the youth. And the establishment of several affirmative funds that continue to provide the youth, women, and people with disabilities with low interest fee funds and economic empowerment activities. The 2007 was in line, youth policy was in line with the old constitution and the program of the government of that day. Right now, youth are in need of the current Kenya youth development policy, purely designed to scale up the youth development and intervention, as well as the youth to value contribution of the national building. And its main objective of the new policy is to mainstream the youth issues in all sectors of national government. Mr. Speaker, as we progress in ensuring that the youth, the young people are valued and their voices must be heard, I need to also request the CS in charge of youth to fast track the formulation of a current Kenya National Youth Development Policy to provide a blueprint on the development of the youth agenda. Mr. Speaker, in clause 2 of the bill, it deals with the miscellaneous matters, including the replacement of the obsolete terms such as minister with cabinet secretaries, meaning that the cabinet secretary for the time being is responsible for the matters relating to the youth. Clause 3 of the bill also provides for the amendment of Section 5 of National Youth Council Act number 10 of 2009 that deals with replacement of the term permanent secretary with principal secretary in line with the provision of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. Notable that the youth of this country are lacking enforceable contracts that is geared towards ensuring the development of a young person is actually maximized. If you look at ineffectiveness of the council, ineffectiveness of the council has created a lot of loopholes within the government. For example, there is no institution right now that offers young people with the 30% tender in procurement, from the county assembly to all parastatals. So there's no enforceable contract so far that is actually being implemented to support the development of a young person. The National Youth Council has never been funded, and that has affected the operation of the council as well. If you look at even when you go to the issues affecting the youth in employment, there's high red tape everywhere. Any young person seeking for employment is asked so many documents, so many things as if he's applying for, as if he's not a Kenyan citizen, as if the national ID is not enough. So, Mr. Speaker, clause 4 of the bill provide for the amendment of Section 6 of the National Youth Council Act number 20 of 2009 to Act number 2009, Section 6 of the National Youth Council Act number 20 of 2009 by substituting the word sublocation with the term word in line with the language used in the Constitution of Kenya. And clause 3 of the bill provide for the amendment of Section 5 of the Constitution to Section 5 of National Youth Council Act 2009 that deal with the replacement of the term PS, permanent secretary, with principal secretary. Mr. Speaker, on the composition of the council, the bill proposes that it shall consist of the following: a non-executive chairperson who shall be a youth appointed by the President and the Republic of Kenya. The principal secretary responsible for matters relating to youth or his or her representative nominated in writing. The principal secretary responsible for matters relating to finance or his or her representative nominated in writing. And the Attorney General for a representative nominated in writing. 10 persons being youth appointed by the Cabinet Secretary and Secretary of the Board, who shall be the Chief Executive Officer and official member of the Council and shall not have a vote. Furthermore, Speaker, the aforementioned member of the Council shall be appointed or elected through an open, transparent, and competitive process as per the procedure outlined in the third schedule. Also, in appointing or electing the members to the council, the cabinet secretary shall ensure that that there are equal opportunities for persons living with disabilities, persons from marginalized communities, and persons with professional bodies. Not more than 2/3 of the members of the council are of the same gender. The membership of the council reflects the region and ethnic diversity of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, according to clause 3 of the bill, the person who is qualified for the appointment of the chairperson of the council, if the person is in possession of a bachelor's degree from a university recognized in Kenya, has at least 5 years of post-qualification experience, is not a holder of any other public office, is a member of an active registered youth group, and meet the requirement of Chapter 6 of the Constitution and any relevant law of integrity, and he or she must be a youth. Mr. Speaker, the qualification for the appointment of members of the council under clause 3 of the bill are that the individual must possess at least a post-secondary education certificate from an institution recognized in Kenya, have at least 3 years post-qualification experience, and not to be a holder of any other public office, and be a member of an active youth organization, youth group, and then meet the requirement of the Chapter 6 of the Constitution and be a youth. Mr. Speaker, the proposed amendment also prescribed the following procedures to be followed for the appointment of the 10 youth, or appointment or election of the 10 youth as members of the council. The candidate eligible for appointment as member of the council shall be selected, nominated, or elected in an open, transparent, and competitive process at the county level. The selection panel or election panel or nomination panel in every county shall consist of the county commissioner, who shall be the chairperson, the county director of youth affairs, the county director of social development services, the county director of gender affairs, 2 persons representing faith-based organization, a representative from the chambers of commerce, a representative from the commissioner of scouts, and county chairperson for organization responsible for people living with disability. Mr. Speaker, the third schedule of the bill provides for the selection or nomination or election of nominees at the county level, that each selection, nomination, or election panel at the county level shall, within 7 days of its convening, invite application for qualified persons and publish the names and qualification of all applicants in Kenya Gazette and the ministry's website. Also, the panel shall consider the application interview and shortlist 2 persons, being male and female, qualified for appointment as a member of the council, and shall forward the name of the shortlisted person to the CS, who shall, within 7 days, in receipt of the name forward by the panel, appoint the members to the council. Mr. Speaker, the clause 4 of the bill provide for the amendment of the Section 6 of National Youth Council Act 2009 by substituting the term sublocation with words as per the current Constitution of 2010. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, the enactment of the bill shall not in any occasion be an additional expenditure of the public funds. And as I conclude, Mr. Speaker, our young people in this country are faced with numerous challenges when they are trying to ensure that their lives are in order, straight from education institutions. For example, recently, I overheard the CS in charge of education requesting or pushing for the closure of satellite campuses. And here, as a House, we've been struggling to see that access to education can be done from our convenience, from our counties. Not all young people, not all parents have the capabilities or the abilities to come and enable their students to come and study, for example, in Ruiru or in Kenyatta University or University of Nairobi. The Cabinet Secretary should have been should have been focusing on how to equip this institution with quality education so that our parents or the Kenyan citizen can be able to access education from wherever they are. You look at the high red tapes when it comes to employment. A young person seeking for a job is asked to provide so many documents. This alone hinders even or doesn't cure the challenges of unemployment. For example, last year, Public Service Commission, PSC, employed 1,800. In a whole year, a whole government institution in charge of employment, employing 1,800. And from the census, we saw the population of young people are 35.1 million out of 47.6. That alone composed of around 75.1%. The problem of unemployment is the biggest challenge any young person is facing in the country right now. And as a government, we are doing so little to ensure that these young people have an opportunity to improve their own lives. You find as a student who has just cleared Form 4 has been denied a certificate only to go even to a tertiary institution, a TTI, the technical institutions that are at the county level. All these are actually hindrances to development of a young person. And what I'm actually asking this House today is let's support the development of the National Youth Council so that within the government we have a body that is going to advance the voice of the youth. And Mr. Speaker, I beg to move this bill for the second reading, and I would like to request Honorable David Ochieng to second.
Honorable David Ochieng, now that is to say that you have been placed squarely in that bracket of the youth, which is a good thing. Proceed, Honorable Ochieng.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to start by thanking the Honorable Gideon Ketre for doing something that I think would have been done so long time ago. But I think he should have known better because he was part of the National Youth Council before he came to Parliament, and he understands the challenges that are faced by this particular body. Mr. Speaker, I'm no longer youth. I'll be 40 this year, so I'm past that bracket now. But I leave youth issues at heart. I was the Secretary General of the Kenya Young MP Association for the last 4 years, and so I think I'm competent enough to talk about issues of young people. Mr. Speaker, the bill is a very simple bill. The bill seeks to strengthen the structure of engagement of young people in the discourse of all the public affairs in this country, as provided for in the National Youth Council Act. Mr. Speaker, we could talk about so many things, but if you want young people to participate, young people to get involved, young people to engage in what happens in daily lives, Mr. Speaker, the best way to go about it is to have systems and structures that enable them to participate in these processes. Mr. Speaker, what I mean here is the county government processes, constituency processes, ward processes, national discourses. If you want them to participate, that they must be organized in a particular manner that helps them do so. Mr. Speaker, this is not the only country with this kind of a system. Uganda has one since 1993. In fact, that country even has 2 MPs designated as such as youth MPs, female and male. You don't have to wait for Honorable Keter, Honorable Babu Wino, or Honorable David Ochieng to claim that he loves youth, to represent youth. You just need to have young people in this house representing them. And so this bill, in a nutshell, Mr. Speaker, says that we got a youth council that has not been operationalized for the last 8 years. And why so? Because we left a very important role for constituting the council to a minister. It says at 5G that members of the Youth Council, Mr. Speaker, are to be appointed, 8 of them, to be elected through a system to be prescribed by the minister. It's discretionary, it's carte blanche, it's a blank check. No one knows what the minister is supposed to do to make this work. So what Dino is proposing, Mr. Speaker, this morning is to ensure that we have a competitive process through which these young people get into the Youth Council. This is the modus operandi we've adopted in this House for the last 4 years, Mr. Speaker, of appointing board members of parastatals, appointing board members of authorities. Let's have a process that is transparent, that is competitive, that is participatory. And so what Gideon is saying, Mr. Speaker, is that we'll have 9 members of the National Youth Council being nominated through a competitive process by the Cabinet Secretary responsible for the youth affairs. Competitive, Mr. Speaker, means this could be advertised. There could be a panel of selection like we do with the commissions. There could be a way in which we advertise the papers and people bring applications, and we have a panel that then looks at this and provides for, how to get a broad spectrum of membership across the country. Mr. Speaker, during KANU days, and I won't say more, during KANU days, and you belong to KANU, I know, there used to be a very strong, I say during KANU days, Mr. Speaker, there used to be a very strong youth movement in this country.
Yes, I think you should stop it there. You
don't
have to...
I didn't say anything else, Mr. Speaker. If you had anything else, Mr. Speaker, it was probably a slip of the heart or the tongue, perhaps. There used to be a very strong youth movement in this country. We knew this is the chairman of the KANU Youth, this is the general of KANU Youth, and this is how it works. The reason we decided to depoliticize this is so that you have a youth council that takes care of all shades of opinion, all shades of color, all shades of, race and all that, so that everybody gets expression within that particular framework. Now, for 8 years, Mr. Speaker, this has not happened because of fear. That if you open it up, so-and-so will influence, so-and-so will influence, and so we need to get this to a rest. We need to have a strong youth council, and I want to implore upon members that this is a bill that we need to pass yesterday. Mr. Speaker, why? Because so much is happening in this country. And youth are being promised so many things every day. But all these are tokenism. All these are basically false promises because there's no way of them engaging. And I'll take an example, though controversial, Mr. Speaker, but I'll just use it. Look at the 14-member composition of the BBI task force. 14 members. No single member is below 35. Not one. And no one is able to talk about it. But then, when you hear them talk about BBI, what they're saying is that this BBI is going to help the future. The future is youth. 75% of our population is youth. So if you're discussing posterity, you're discussing a system that you say is going to put us on a path to growth, and there's no young person presiding, there's no young person represented in that panel deciding, how are you going to do that? We can have 8-year-olds deciding for 22-year-olds. We can have 8-year-olds deciding the future of 18-year-olds. We're going to have to ensure that these people are mainstreamed in these structures to ensure that it works. You cannot probably dance reggae and hope that that is going to then help create jobs. You can't hope to dance reggae and hope that that's going to help create opportunities in colleges for these young people. You must allow them, enable them to be part of that process to work. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that engaging young people in productive endeavors is the best thing that this country can do. And so organizing from the village level, through the ward level, through the sub-county level and the county level is the best thing you can do for young people to participate in these things. And as this is done, I also want to implore upon political parties in this country, because they are now bodies of the law. They are organs of governance. Let's have strong youth leagues. Let's have strong youth structures that then mirror this youth council so that we're able to bring in more young people, mentor them, nurture them, put them in a good state to enable them grow up as responsible citizens who look up to the country and the country looks up to them to enable us move in one accord. Mr. Speaker, I wouldn't want to say much. I want to thank the Honorable Gideon Koter for this and second and deservedly this bill, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. So, honorable members, I will propose a question, which is that the Employment Amendment number 2 bill, National Assembly Bill number, honorable members. I propose a question, which is that the National Youth Council Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 8 of 2019, be now read a second time. Now, I'll give the first shot to the the chair of the relevant committee, and this will be the norm. So the chairs should be able to prepare in advance when there is a matter that is coming, which they are not the ones sponsoring. And they have a reasonably good time to now put the members up to speed, because we'll be getting now the perspective of the committee, which is there for the technical group which goes into these particular bills. So let's hear the Honorable Chair, Labour Committee.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to respond to this bill. Mr. Speaker, the principal objective of this bill is to amend the membership of the National Youth Council by allowing competitive requirement of the youth serving in the council, which is intended to depoliticize the membership of the council. Mr. Speaker, the other objective is to do away with the obsolete words like ministers, permanent secretaries, sublocation, and align it to the current constitutional dispensation. Mr. Speaker, the bill does not limit the rights and the fundamental freedoms in Bill of Rights, and it does not delegate legislative powers. The enactment of this bill shall not occasion any additional expenditure in public funds. Mr. Speaker, we have done public participation. Through an advertisement on 26 March 2019, the committee invited the public to present submission on the National Youth Council Amendment Bill 2019 to be received by the committee on or before 2nd April 2019. I want to inform the House that the committee did not receive any written submission on the bill within the specified time frame, but met with Hon Gideon Keter and officers from the Ministry of Public Service, Youth and Gender Affairs on 1st of April 2019. At the said meeting, Mr. Speaker, the Ministry informed the committee that it was going to undertake a comprehensive review of the Act and submitted a copy of the proposed amendment, that is the draft National Youth Council. Mr. Speaker, we said we cannot legislate, we cannot stop the member from practicing his right. The ministry can do or bring the comprehensive amendment when they feel like. But we said we have to allow the member to continue with the bill. Mr. Speaker, for the record, the Organization of African Youth Kenya presented memorandum which was received on 12th September 2019, while Kenya YSO Consortium presented a memorandum which was received out of the stipulated timeline and so were not considered. Mr. Speaker, our observation as a committee, the committee totally agrees with the crux of the bill, which is to increase the number of youth membership of the council and to ensure their appointments are made through a competitive process, ensuring that the appointment of youth are made through a competitive process. Appointment of the youth to the council follows a competitive process contained in Article 232 of the Constitution by requiring fair competition and merit as the basis for appointment. The membership of the council is presently comprised of 22 members, whereas increasing the number of youth by one person will ensure that the council has an odd number, which is ideal for voting purposes. The enhancement, as proposed by Hon Keter, will also render the board's membership bloated. This is contrary to the stipulated number under State Corporations Act, which requires the board to have not more than 15 persons. There is need to provide for the qualification applicable to the youth members of the board as criteria for the proposed competitive and merit-based recruitment. As it is presently, the Act only stipulates qualification to be held by the chairperson. Further, there is need to provide for a selection criteria which will decentralize the appointment of the Youth Council members. Mr. Speaker, the committee recommended that the membership be as follows: 16 persons, 10 of whom are youth. The council consists, Mr. Speaker, a non-executive chairperson who shall be a youth appointed by the president. The principal secretary responsible for matters relating to youth or his or her representative nominated in writing. The principal secretary responsible for matters relating to finance or his or her representative nominated in writing. The Attorney General or a representative nominated in writing. 10 persons being youth appointed by the Cabinet Secretary and the Secretary to the Board, who shall be ex officio officer, ex officio member of the Council, and shall not have a vote. The members under subsection 1F, who are basically youth, shall be appointed through an open, transparent, and competitive process through the process prescribed in the third schedule. In appointing members to the Council, under subsection 1F, the Cabinet Secretary shall ensure that there are equal opportunities for persons with disability, persons from marginalized communities, persons from professional bodies, and not more than 2/3 of the members of the Council are of the same gender. The membership of the Council reflects regional and ethnic diversity of the people of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, qualification of a chairperson: a person is qualified to be appointed as a chairperson if that person possesses at least a bachelor's degree from university recognized in Kenya, has at least 5 years post-qualification experience, is not a holder of any other public office. The list is long, Mr. Speaker. We have also given qualification for members of the board. Initially, in his proposal, the qualification is only the chair who was supposed to have bachelor's degree, but we went further as a committee and given qualification of board members. We have given also, Mr. Speaker, procedure at the county level on how to appoint the panel, which is going to appoint the youth who are going to be elected at the role of parent ministry. Each selection panel, subject to this act, determine its own procedure, and the Cabinet Secretary shall provide each selection panel with such facilities and such other support as it may require for the discharge of its function. Mr. Speaker, this is a very simple and straightforward amendment. As a committee, we have sat with very little amendment, agreed to the proposal by Hon Keter, which we will move our amendment at the third reading. But generally, the committee supports the bill. It's a very straightforward bill, very crucial for the welfare of our youth. So as a committee, Mr. Speaker, we stand in support of this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well, and I must commend the chair today. He is actually very well prepared for this particular bill. That's how we expect the chairs to be prepared. And honorable members, as we proceed and progress, there might be issues that probably they are not very clear. But I think today we are happy because the chair of the committee and the mover of the bill and also the seconder were very clear on. But should it be that there are some issues that are not extremely clear, we will not be asking the chair to clarify midstream. We will ask not the chair, the mover of the bill. We'll be asking them to take notes of the concerns of members, and as they reply, because they have an opportunity to reply, they will reply on the basis of to concerns and other matters that arise during debate. So at no point in time shall we allow an exchange between members, like for example, asking the mover of the bill to clarify one or two things inside the bill. So we will go to, we'll start with Honorable Mutua Barasa, member for Kimilili.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support this important bill. This is a bill whose time has come, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the young people of this country forms a good percentage of the total population of this republic, Honorable Speaker. And we have had a lot of efforts by government and other institutions towards improving the lives of the young people, Honorable Speaker, but all these efforts has been an exercise in futility because of what we are trying to cure today through this bill, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, there is need to even audit so far the implemented interventions into improving the lives of the young people in this country, so as to be sure that the very many youth organizations that are being funded in this country, including the current National Youth Council, Honorable Speaker, that they are not just created as conduits for certain people to siphon money meant to improve the lives of these young people, Honorable Speaker. Madam Speaker, we must be cognizant of the fact that if the National Youth Council is not achieving the goal of improving the lives of the youths in this country, then we can as well say there is an equivalent of a misguided missile on a wrong target, and the only medicine is to ensure that this bill goes through, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I know that at a later stage we will be introducing further amendments so that the National Youth Council cannot just be an entity that is going to be used by the older generations to siphon money and to continue to impoverish the young people of this country, but actually it must be a game changer into the lives of the young people, Madam Speaker. I know at times it's difficult to improve the economic well-being of all citizens in our country within a very short time, but when you begin to sort out problems that affect the young people, the rest of the issues will fall in place, Madam Speaker. I have had a problem previously, Madam Speaker, where you see even the people who are in charge of the youth fund. These are the same fellas of 70 years, 80 years, whom we can squarely blame for the current problem that affect the young people. Because if you are in the position to sort out problems to do with the youth of this country and you failed, then we will be courting a disaster, a much failure if we again entrust the management of the same institutions into the hands of these people, Madam Speaker. The young people of this country are very innovative. We have medicines for our own problems. We have a formula to solve our own problem that we have faced. And some of our problems are not known to other people, Madam Speaker. And there is structuring the National Youth Council so that the appointments are not depoliticized. Then we are going to do things differently, Madam Speaker, because we cannot continue doing these things the same. The results that and the results are not desirable, and we cannot improve, Madam Speaker, if we will continue to do the same thing every time. So this is a good bill. I support it, Madam Speaker, and I want to ask my fellow members of Parliament to support this bill, and even at a later stage, try to improve it so that young people can begin to lead a life full of optimism. This bill is going to rekindle the hope in the hopeless, youthful population of this country, Madam Speaker. And it's only by this House supporting this bill and also making sure that the authorities who are charged with the responsibility of ensuring that this bill is implemented after being enacted by law it happens, Madam Speaker. I sit in this House as a young member of Parliament, and when I go home, Madam Speaker, the young people ask me a lot of questions. That even getting employment in this country is a problem. Getting access to the youth fund is a problem because of lack of a clear, framework. And if it exists, there are loopholes for pilferage by people who are not intended to benefit, Madam Speaker. And I think this bill is coming to sort out these problems once and for all, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the young people of this country have been very instrumental in supporting the government of the day. Not just to mention, Madam Speaker, that we got the fighters, the people who fought for independence of this country were young people. The likes of Dedan Kimathi, they were young people, Madam Speaker. Jomo Kenyatta, they were young people, Madam Speaker. So the only appreciation that we can give to the young people for the support that they have given to this country is to ensure that the National Youth Council is the appointment of the people to serve on the National Youth Council is depoliticized. And the way to do it, Madam Speaker, is to ensure this bill is given approval by this House. And I will ask members to really give support for the young people of this country by making contributions to this bill, supporting it, enriching it, so that it comes out to ensure that this is the only thing that is going to change the lives of the young people, Madam Speaker. For these very few remarks, I want to reiterate my position that I support this bill. Thank you.
Very well, the member for Kimilili, for your debate. You've done well. Let me have the member for Saku, the Honorable Rasso Ali. The Honorable Rasso Ali, the card is in the consultation room. Very well. Member for Makweni?
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute on this very, very important bill. Madam Speaker, at the time the laws relating to youth were formulated during the President Kibaki regime. Madam Speaker, I was the Secretary in the Ministry of Youth, and I'm very familiar with the origins of these bills, and at that particular time, even the government policy and the mood was to support the youth, because that's the first time President Kibaki set up the youth ministry, powerfully so, with the permanent secretary, deceased Kenodia Morogo, and the youth ministry, which was youth and sports, was really, really vibrant those days, and there was a lot of hope. From the current statistics, youth has now moved from 72% to 75% of the population of Kenya. That is a huge number, and quite a number of them, this is between 18 and 35 years, shows that that's a big votee block, and therefore the youth can determine the destiny in this country, be it the forthcoming referendum, be it BPI, so many other things in the country. So the youth policy is very important, and the youth law is important because it guides a few things here and there. And a lot of people have tended to misuse the youth when it comes to politics. They talk very good things about the youth, but when it comes to the practicality of it, there's zero happening about the youth in the country. In the counties, now we have devolution. We should see a lot of activity, and we should see youths as CECs, youths balance in appointments and even in elective positions. In fact, quite a number of young people, including our very own, the Honorable John Paul, young people in the House, and even the mover of this bill is Gideon Katari, is a young man who has the vision of the young people in this country. And therefore, this is something we must do to make sure that the dealings with the youth are right, and we utilize the power with the youth. Madam Speaker, in the United States of America, a lot of people, and you know, between the age of 18 and 35, drive the economy of United States of America. They're the musicians who make a lot of money, the sports people. You know, America has been topping in the sports in the world. The people in creative arts, movie industry, our very own Ms. Nyong'o is there doing a wonderful job. And they generate a lot of income and pay taxes, and the economy of the country improves, because when you are youthful, is when you maximize your energies. Our very own former member of Kibra, or Koth, was in America with quite a number of youths from Kenya. And one day they sat down and asked, why don't we go back to Kenya and build our country as young people? We are doing so much for another country, yet we can do a lot for our own country. And that's how Ken Okoth found himself here, together with quite a number of young people. And he was actually elected as a member of parliament. So that tells you the potential with the youth. And we must give it the right direction in terms of policy. Mainly policy is where we have a big problem. The law is right, although the policy is what informs the law. We need to have a general policy and a political goodwill to promote the youth of the country. And the real word, not just talk about youth, say youth must do this and then do nothing about it, as I've seen it happening in the counties especially. And again, when you look at this particular law, Madam Speaker, we have now moved from elected to nominated. I don't know out of that one, I believe in third reading, we should look again at that. The rest of the cleaning up was very good and very important, because I've seen the cleanup of cabinet secretary, minister, permanent secretary, principal secretary, which should have happened a long time ago anyway when we got a new constitution. But unfortunately, we are even now talking of a referendum to reverse back to minister instead of cabinet secretary. And Kenyans really lobby for that with the popular BBI initiative. So the cleanup is good. It will be in order. If we do referendum before this or after referendum, we will look for amendments again. But more important is G, which originally said 8 youths elected by the youth, in such a manner as may be prescribed and appointed by the minister. Of course, you give, it doesn't make sense, because that means then the minister is the presiding officer of that election. It may not be free and fair, so we have tried to loosen it a little bit in the new amendment, and saying, 9 youths, an improvement from 8, which is good because of the voting, nominated instead of elected. I don't know whether after nomination there should be election, but we can do it at third reading, through a competitive process by the cabinet secretary responsible for the youth affairs. So now is an improvement, definitely, and because we are still debating, and I believe we'll do more at third reading, this is a big improvement from what we had previously. But between election and nomination, or whether we can combine the two, we can look at it at third reading, so that after nomination, then there are elections, so that whoever is representative in the Youth Council has been agreed upon through a free and fair election. It makes more sense than when you just nominate people, because if you are just nominated, then it means you can easily collude and put your own people there. So we can look at that and improve on it, so that we can serve the youth of this country better. Youths are investing in ICT. They are running ICT companies. They are generating a lot of income with this. They are in the ministry. They are in the Ministry of Youth, and we have the film industry. We have where our youth can showcase talent. They're very good. Many youths who are very useful in many aspects. Some understand engineering very well, and that's what changes a nation. Some understand, when it comes to implementing, some of these policies which have been going on, you find that the youth are more creative because now there's use of ICT, and unless you are ICT compliant, then there's a problem. And I believe because a lot of youth are ICT compliant and the BBI report is online, I believe quite a number of people will access it through reading it online. A lot of things are happening online also. A lot of fraud, a lot of crime is being committed online, and again, this affects the youth. So we need to come up with the legislation almost in every piece of legislation. Dealing with the youth, now be 75% of the country. And the primary law is the laws relating to the youth. The Youth Council itself is very competitive. The election used to be very hot. And it's like a lot of people who have participated in this, in politics while they are young, either at the university or at the Youth Council, they have found themselves to be very useful. A lot of them have been hired here in Parliament as assistants of members of Parliament. They are the ones working here in Parliament. And I believe other government departments should utilize the talent in youth now that we are ICT compliant. You can see even the House now is ICT compliant. We are going into paperless, regimes and practices because it's more efficient. And I thank the Honorable Gideon Ketel for being youthful and for taking proactive action to make sure that the youths in this country are served better. That's why we should have more youths in the House. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very well. Members, I wish to interrupt the debate and invite you to join me in welcoming visitors to the House from the Kenya Institute of Management, Torrey constituency, Nairobi County, who are in the public gallery. They are here to watch the proceedings of the House. Yes, as we proceed, and members, just to remind you, we are on the bill by the member, Honorable Keter, which is the National Youth Council Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill, number 8 of 2019. Next on my request list is the member for Embakasi East, the Honorable Babu Ongili. Please have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, number one, the only difference between an old person and a youth is that an old person knows how to be young and how to be old. And a youth only knows how to be young. Therefore, a youth is averagely 60 years closer to the future than an older person. That is if a youth is to die at the age of 95, like our former president, Daniel Torrey Arap Moi. May his soul rest in peace. Madam Speaker, youth matters in this nation are so urgent and very important and must be treated as such. When we come to the National Youth Council, the youth should be given their independence to select, or rather to elect, leaders of their choice. The cabinet secretary must never take this opportunity to select leaders of their own choices. This should go up to the grassroots level so that at least these leaders are given an opportunity to get a person of their own interest. Number two, Madam Speaker, the National Youth Council should be heavily funded. These monies that are lost in corruption matters should be all directed, Madam Speaker, to the youth, because the census report revealed just the other day that 75% of Kenyans are young, of which approximately 60% should be the youth. Therefore, if a youth decides to vie for a president in this nation, Madam Speaker, I assure you with my mouth closest to my nose, that youth will be the president.
You assure me with your mouth closest to your nose.
Neighboring my nose. Madam Speaker,
I hear you.
there should be an opportunity for the youth, and we are making a bad precedence in this house because, first of all, Madam Speaker, these matters youth should have been given to the youth to discuss it first, because as the youth, we are the people who have the interest of the youth at heart.
Honorable Member
You are out
for
of order.
Embakasi, there is an intervention by
You are out of order, CCM. This,
Order. Let
Okay.
me have the intervention.
you see
by
how
the
the old are
Honorable-
speaking, Madam Speaker. Okay.
Yes, point of order, Honorable CNN. What is out of order? Just give him the mic. And please I know you do not have a card.
Madam
Yes.
Speaker, I want to raise the issue Babu Owino has just stated, that only the young people, members of parliament here, are supposed to contribute on this bill. Let me correct him by saying that
Madam Speaker.
we are the
Order.
representatives.
Madam
You
Speaker.
cannot stop when I'm studying, actually. Sit
Order.
down,
Honorable CNN, you are not the speaker. Please address the speaker.
I just want to correct the honorable member. I know I'm young, and every member here is representing a youth in a certain constituency. So I am just correcting the member of parliament and ask him to withdraw the statement immediately.
Honorable Member for Embakasi East, I know Honorable CNN is not a youth, or is a youth. He is a youth. Yes, give him the mic. Just carry on. And,
Madam Speaker, I know Honorable CNN is youthful in his thinking, but when it comes to age, he's not a youth. Therefore, he cannot understand the plight and the interest of the youth. So we forgive you. Madam Speaker, I was
and
talking
again,
about...
just to give a direction to the Honorable CNN, it is not you, it is the speaker to catch your eye. So I'll make a determination who speaks, but after catching my eye, it is not about Honorable Babu Ongili. Thank you, carry on.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, I'm speaking about the funding of the youth matters in this nation. The National Youth Council should be heavily funded, and there should be a trickle-down effect so that the youth at the grassroots level should be in a position to access these funds for various projects, for various businesses. Madam Speaker, another issue is that the BBI that is ongoing, at least in the foreseeable future, as there is going to be a constitutional amendment, the Ministry for the Youth should be an independent ministry that is only catering for the interest of the youth and should be headed by a youth. Thank you, and I rise to support once again this bill.
Very well. Before we proceed, honorable members, again, join me to welcome visitors who are sitting at the speakers gallery. And these are students from Kasue Girls Secondary School, which is in Kibwezi East Constituency, Makueni County, courtesy of their Member of Parliament, Honorable Jessica Mbalo, who happens to be myself. You're welcome. The member for Saboti, the Honorable Luyai Hamisi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support this bill. First, Madam Speaker, I want to recognize that such a bill must be heavily contributed by the young members of parliament. Why? Because we keep on ignoring the youth's voice by trying to say that we are youthful in our mind or in our hearts. But the Constitution clearly says, and it describes who a youth is. A youth is a person or a Kenyan who is below the age of 35 years. If I give you my ID now, you'll see that it's clearly, I'm 32 years old. So most of the youth have missed chances because of the elderly people standing up in the gap and saying they are the youth. And that's how youth lose chances. And we've started here in the parliament when we are giving people on this floor of the house to contribute to the matters of youth. The organizations that are women issues, women-based issues, cannot be led by a man because the man will not understand. The same case, the organizations that are youth-based issues should not be led by people who are, out of the age bracket of the youth. What will they be deliberating? And that's the reason why we've missed the point at the National Youth Council, where we have people who are above 35 years pretending to be leading the youth. What do they know about young person? So we must correct this as we go on. Now, the Constitution, not the Constitution, the census results released recently, we can see 70% of our country, 70% of the population is below 35 years. The age limit is there, below 35 years. They are not saying, even the organizations that are youth-led must be led by people who are below 35 years of age. What are we going to do with the population of 75 years who are below, 75% population who are below 35 years of age? That is a matter that we need to discuss as a nation. Youth leadership is not new. Most of us, we've engaged in youth activities before we ended up in parliament. We've had the time of the Yes Youth Can, where we had the former ambassador of US, Rannenberger, Michael. We tried to have that program, and remember how it shook the nation, and the Kibaki administration thought that this is an overthrow of the government, and it had to end. But the point was, after the Obama won the election, he had premised his campaign on the youth force. And he said that the youth can be used, the youth population bulge can be a demographic dividend, or if you don't, include it in our national discourse, it can end up becoming a disaster for our nation. So this is a very important bill that must be implemented to the latter to help our youth be well organized, because we've had youth activism in this country, but they're not well organized. There are no policies to guide them. That's why you can see even the youth for the BBI, people are crying there is no youth representation because there is no youth voice at the national level. Most of the milestones achieved by women, it is because of the women activism through the maendeleo ya wanawake. That's how women are sitting in this parliament, because of such strong movements of women that have helped the women to achieve up to where we are. We are talking about gender equality. And we need also to escalate to the youth as well, because we cannot classify youth as vulnerable groups. If you look at our constitution, we classify youth as vulnerable groups. We classify the elders as vulnerable groups. We classify the women as vulnerable groups. But we treat youth differently. There is Pesa kwa wazee, but there's no Pesa kwa vijana, and yet all of them are vulnerable groups. So why are you giving the wazees who are retiring money and not give the young people? When I talked about giving 3,000 a stipend for every young person who is unemployed, you said this is a waste of taxpayers' money. But why are you giving to wazees who are doing nothing at home? So if we can't be classified as vulnerable groups. But when it comes to dividends and taking care of social assistance from the government, then we give to the old people, we give to the women, but there's no even a youth fund that is well catered for the young people. We talk about the Wezo fund, that only it is skewed towards entrepreneurship. Who told you all young people are business people? There are some who just want to run and make money in international arena. There are just who want to play football. There are those who just want to sing. So youth is a whole, a myriad of expertise from the young people that needs to be conglomerate into a bill to enable that the young people are well, their voices are heard, their activities are recognized, their voice in the decision-making of this. In fact, Madam Speaker, in some of the proposals to the BBI should be that if we have 2 deputies prime ministers, 1 deputy prime minister must be below 35 years. So that one day I'll be standing here as a deputy prime minister because I'm below 35 years. And we can also say that the ministers, we can escalate to the ministries, that if we have a minister for foreign affairs, the assistant minister should be a young person below 35 years, because we are living a whole generational gap. We have our old people running our systems. So when they are not there, who will run this government? We need to nurture young people. We need to put people in the system, the young people in the system. They learn the ways of running the government. And the only way to learn is by assisting, be assistants. We are not saying, let us be ministers. We are saying, let us be assistants. Because by assisting, then we are learning. then in future, we have people who are going to run this government. So you cannot leave a whole generation of government. And the youth leadership is not new. I mean, historically, the people who have fought for revolutions are young people, the Thomas Sankaras of this world, the Muammar Gaddafi, the Martin Luther King Jr. All these people achieved when they are very young. So most of the achievements that have changed the course of government, the course of humanity, were done by the young people. And we can see the Prime Minister, the recent Prime Minister of Australia is 32 years old. The President of New Zealand is 38 years old. And there are so many presidents in this world who are young and they are doing marvelous work. So I think the issue of young people in this country, if we don't, and they say the youth of a nation are the trustees of posterity. A nation that continuously ignore the voice of the youth, that continuously sideline the young people in their national goals, then it is a nation on trajectory of failure. And we cannot set this country on failure by ignoring the 70%, 75% population that makes this country. So even in the BBI report, we need to see the young people's voices and the young people's issues articulated. Can we even start setting up youth talent academies in every constituency, so that every constituency across the country, young people have a place or an avenue where they can showcase their talents. There are people who are dying of their talents back at home in mashinani because they have no platform to showcase them. If we have talent development academies in every constituency, we give a chance to that young person from Samburu who cannot come to Nairobi, to the amphitheater of Nairobi. They have their amphitheater down there in Samburu. And they are able to, expose their talents to the world. They are able to come here back to Nairobi and entertain us. And, follow the roots of some people that have done well in the international arena. They are footballers. If the Wanyamas of this time were cultivated at an early stage, most of these football teams you see in France and winning the World Cup, they are basically from Africa. So the Africa is a center of talent, is an epicenter of talents, and we need to use our talents other than just crying that we need the government to bring employment. Why can't we turn our focus to developing the talents of young people, other than focusing on the government to provide a solution that they will not do? So we need to focus on talent development of the young people, because that's where our potential is. We don't have the natural resources, we don't have the oil. So what do we have? We have the talents as a nation. We need to use it so that we compete globally with the rest of the world. So if we continuously marshal the voices of the young people, we cannot hear them, we cannot see their talent. Therefore, we are continuously ignoring our generation and our future. We will eventually be left with a shell out of our country if we do not take care of these young people, Madam Speaker. Thank you, and I beg to support.
Very well said, the member for Saboti. Very well said. Members, it's unfortunate that the House is not full, and this is a very important bill, which is touching on a very important aspect of the youth that we keep on speaking outside there. I'm aware of the committee members, the committees that are already sitting, the Oversight Committee. Allow me give this position or the floor to a very experienced youth. One who has been a youth, he represents the youth, being a representative of a constituency, and has been, as Honorable Babu Ogili did say, that he was a youth one time. The member for Kadui, very experienced, senior member of this House.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. You're quite right in your observation, because we have also been youth. Where they are, we were there, and we did what they're doing now. So the reason, what should be appreciated is the fact that I think we, apart from the difference as put by the Honorable Babu, we also know a little more than the youth do because of our life experiences. Now, Madam Speaker, I want to thank and commend the Honorable Koter for coming up with this bill, which is seeking to amend the National Youth Council Act in order to have it depoliticized by having its council members competitively recruited as opposed to other means, possibly by election and so on, which involves campaign and politicizing the process. It is important, Madam Speaker, that we all acknowledge the fact that a country that doesn't recognize and support the youth, of course, has its future doomed. The youth are an important part. They are in fact cream of society. They are the majority. They are allied. They are involved in very innovative. They are involved in IT innovations and are expected to lead in many ways, Madam Speaker. Now, the problem that I've realized in this bill, Madam Speaker, and I would like the Honorable Keter to look at this. If you look at Section 3, which is talking about amendment at Part A, the words permanent secretary, wherever it appears, and substituting therefore the words principal secretary. Now, that's a good amendment, Madam Speaker, because that's just merely to align the bill to the current structure. But if you move on, Madam Speaker, to Section 5, composition of the council, you'll realize at Part A, the bill provides for the principal secretary in the ministry for the time being responsible for youth affairs or his or her representative appointed in writing. Then as you move on to Part C, it again goes back to the permanent secretary in the ministry for the time being responsible for finance or his representative, the Attorney General. Then at Part E again, the permanent secretary. At F again, the permanent secretary. Then 8th youth elected Antonis and so forth. Now, Madam Speaker, this could appear, small, minor mistakes, but I wonder how they went through, because this is a small bill, it's just one two-page bill. I wonder how, the draftsman in Parliament could move to pass this kind of thing to get to the floor of the House. You are bringing an amendment to the main act, and then you also bring it with errors to the floor of the House. And I think I want to urge that we should be a little more careful when we are bringing bills to the House, Madam Speaker. The other issue that I think is important, that this can be amended, Madam Speaker, during the third reading. But I didn't think it would have been, it augurs well for this kind of thing to be brought before the House in the manner it is brought. The other thing, Madam Speaker, I noted, which I would like to also support, I think, is the fact that, one, county governments must be encouraged to come up with programs that are geared particularly towards supporting the youth of this country in many ways, through empowerment, through education, through capacity, and so on and so forth. But also the aspect of cash transfer programs, like has been articulated by the Honorable Youthful Member for Sabot. Indeed, the older people have been put on cash transfer programs, and they receive support at the end of every month or 2-3 months to the tune of about 2,000, 3,000 per month, Madam Speaker. And also I think it is both the old men and women. And this is in the category of the underprivileged, the people who do not have the means, particularly, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker. Now, the youth, some of whom have gone through school, some haven't gone through school, or they are dropout. Until the recent, compulsory transition, we had youth who could not proceed to higher education. But, Madam Speaker, the point I want to drive home is the fact that it should not just, consideration should not just be given to youth. It should be given to everybody in this country, like elsewhere in the world, in many parts. People that are unemployed should be able to be put on some stipend for their living, not for business, not for anything, but for a living, so that they get something for a living, Madam Speaker, so that they get something to meet their daily obligations, so that they get something to put some small piece of food on the table, and so on and so forth. They're able also to get treatment, Madam Speaker. The other issue is, they are medical. This is where I think the members, the youthful members, need also to get right that the older people, have their bodies, deteriorating, the performance of their organs decline, and therefore do not function like the young people who can be actively involved in other lives. So we need to also ensure that support is given towards medical assistance to the people who are in their late ages, Madam Speaker. Now, finally, an important point regarding the youth forum that was held in this country, under the auspices of the International Conference of Great Lakes Region, which sought to establish a secretariat here in Kenya, in Nairobi. And I recall His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya donating $2 million towards establishment of a secretariat in Nairobi. And Madam Speaker, since then, from when the money was released to the ministry in 2016 to date, the secretariat for the youth affairs, in the International Conference of Great Lakes Region has not been established. This is a shame. If we really want to demonstrate our seriousness in supporting the youth, this, of course, a secretariat would obviously come with employment opportunities for a number of youths themselves, for a number of other people, in this country. But this is yet to be established. I have previously called in the ministry and even asked a question about this, but I have not received an answer, Madam Speaker. So I want to also urge that the government, and particularly the ministry concerned, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry, the Department for Youth, they should act to ensure the operationalization of the Secretariat for the Conference of Great Lakes Region in Nairobi. Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, I beg to support.
You beg to support. Very well. Before I give the leadership, who is next on my request list, it's important to know that in the Parliament, and I'm sure the member would mention, that we have a youth caucus. And the Honorable Member will just finish his debate contribution, says he's also a youth. The Honorable Member for Mumias East, the Honorable Washiali Jomo. You have the floor.
I thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. And quickly start by thanking Honorable Gideon Keter for bringing up this bill that is focusing on the youths who are 75% or more. If you went by the current census. And I quickly add that I have heard and listened keenly what my colleagues, members who are youthful have been saying. And I just want to take this opportunity to encourage them to bring more bills that will address challenges that the youths are going through. Madam Speaker, I may not be a youth, but in my house, I have several youths I talk to every evening and every morning, and I know what they are going through. Madam Speaker, if you looked in the current status of the leadership of this world, you will find that the Prime Minister of Finland, Sanna Marin, she is only 34 years. I'm saying she's only 34 years because she's a female youth, and she has been able to be a Prime Minister of a first-class country called Finland. The question I'm asking, is it possible for a Kenyan youth, leave alone being a female, but any Kenyan youth, including the male, can they be prime ministers or even the CSs or even whatever serious position that we are talking about? You can see, even in these chambers, Madam Speaker, the youth representation here is minimal. The member of parliament who has even brought this bill is just here by nomination. Maybe if he went for election, it would have been a problem. Therefore, the question we are asking as Kenyans, are we treating the majority of this country fairly? Madam Speaker, for one to become a prime minister is not an easy thing to talk about. Just even imagining that one can be a prime minister in this country. Because the laws that we have made in this country have made it very difficult for one to become a leader in this country. They are difficult in the sense that they are very expensive. We have made the system of identifying leaders here very expensive. Even just being a member of parliament, you must really put up a lot of resources to become a member of parliament. Therefore, I just want to encourage the youthful members of parliament again to bring laws that can enable many of you to come here so that you can think for the future of this country. We keep on talking of youths being the leaders of tomorrow, and yet we are not able to make laws that will make them leaders of tomorrow. Because even being leaders of tomorrow, it will not be easy if we do not amend laws. It is quite unfortunate, Madam Speaker, and this I say with a lot of feeling for the youth, that the authority of making laws in this country are not even in the hands of members of parliament here who have youthful offspring, who have children who are still youth. The authority of making laws has been left to people whose children, whose offspring are also not youth, are already beyond the age of youth. Are we doing the right thing? Because someone and a member before me mentioned the composition of the BBI, which is now a major organ in this country in lawmaking. If you looked at the composition of that BBI, Honorable Speaker, you will actually confirm to all of us that youths have a long way to go. We have put a lot of obstacles in the progression of youth. For example, employment. How would a youth get employment when the employers are asking for experience? Where would you have gotten experience if you are seeking that employment for the first time? We have had tenders which have been earmarked, put aside for the youth. But with the experience I've had out of this leadership, you will find that even the youth who eventually get those tenders are youths who are connected to adults who have the money to even help them register for those companies, because today to register a company, you must have 20,000 plus money to be able to register a company that will then be able to tender for this company. So where will you get the money to even register if you are just starting life afresh? Honorable Speaker, due to the current constitution, which now requires that every Kenyan must have basic education, today, many youths are going through transition, 100% transition. Like in primaries, they have to go to Form 1, and this has enabled many of the Kenyan youths to be enlightened of what is happening. I therefore want to just take this opportunity to warn whoever thinks that he will dictate to youth many years to come, that he should know that now the youth we are dealing with are not the youth of the years before. These are youths who have now gone to school and they know what's happening, and I'm sure very soon they'll make decisions that will embarrass the adults. Madam Speaker, I just want to end by requesting Honorable Keter, who is a member of the majority party, my side of the party. I just want to encourage you that you must take note of the amendments that have been requested, especially the one that Honorable Munyinya has mentioned. I don't know how it escaped the drafters of this bill, because it's a shame that we could still carry on the position of permanent secretary when we don't have that kind of post. And also, I just want you also to just take note that as we amend this, I am just hoping that you have collected the opinion of all the youths, so that it's not just a decision you are making from Nairobi here, or a decision from the few you meet in Nairobi. You must get to Mumias, you must get to Mandera, you must get to Mombasa to collect the opinion of the old youth, so that if there is a decision that we are going to make as a house, it's a decision that will represent all the youth in this country. Otherwise, Madam Speaker, I wish to thank you for the opportunity. I support.
Very well. I'm sure the Honorable Keteri is taking notes. And that's why we encourage the movers of the bills to be in the House when the debate is ongoing. So, Honorable Keteri, please note such proposals by the members for observation. That's why we usually say the wazee huona mbali. The next on my request list is the member for Naimoy. Maritime Silvanus, Honorable.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute to this very important bill. But before I do that, I wish to appreciate the effort by Honorable Gideon Keter to bring up this bill. I think Honorable Keter has demonstrated that indeed he is serving the interest, he is serving the primary role as to why he is here. Madam Speaker, this bill is coming up at a time where youth of this country are facing a good number of problems. And if you look at it, it could be because youths of this country have been locked out of key decision-making organs. Honorable Washali has just pointed out one, that if you look at the composition of BBI task force, there is no single representation of a youth. And if we are not in the negotiating table, who will take care of our interests? I want to encourage my colleagues who are members of Kenya Young Parliamentarian Association that it is time that we take youth agenda to the next level. Honorable Caleb of Support did mention that we should also think of ensuring that youth are considered in BBI. And I'm asking myself, have we organized ourselves as KYPA to give our submissions? If indeed we want full representation, it will be such a time that we organize ourselves. Let us negotiate for a position. If at all BBI is going to expand or create more position in top leadership, we should be thinking of a position that will benefit the youth, that will ensure that we protect the interests of the youth. Madam Speaker, this bill is a straightforward bill that seeks to amend a few clauses, obsolete terminologies, say for a few clause number 5 that needs to be corrected. But I agree with the move of this bill that there is also need to downsize the membership of National Youth Council from the current 24 to a smaller number so that it can make decision making faster. And if we are going to realize quality decisions, good direction for the youth, then we must have people who have passion, people who have commitment, people who understand youth agenda. The only way we can realize that is to ensure that it becomes non-partisan. If we are going to have a competitive recruiting process where members of the council are going to be picked, it is going to solve these problems. And they say fish will always start rotting from the head. If we ensure that we have the right leadership, then we will be safe. Madam Speaker, youths are facing a good number of problems. Youth unemployment in this country is a crisis. It is not only a national problem, but it is an international, it is a worldwide crisis. Therefore, we must find innovative and creative means of utilizing available opportunities and resources, limited as they are, to achieve more. It can only be possible if we will have youths who are ready and committed to drive that agenda. Madam Speaker, youth participation in social, economical, and political activities in this country should be given a priority so that we ensure that we benefit from government initiatives that have been put in place to ensure that it protects the interest of the youth. As I speak here today, we have a government intervention called YAGBO, Youth Access to Procurement Opportunities in this country, which is usually about 30%, including women and persons with disabilities. But surprisingly, research shows that the uptake of YAGBO is at 7%. What about the rest 23%? Of these 7%, about 6.9 are youths in an urban setup. That means youths at village level are not participating. If we are going to have a council that will be vibrant enough to ensure that youths participate in social, economical, and political activities, it is going to be better. Madam Speaker, in paper, we have youth fund in place. But in reality, we are not seeing that fund. 3 years down the line, I have not given out a single check to the youth from the youth fund, yet we are made to believe that it exists. The reason why we don't have these funds is because of poor structures in place. We don't have good structures that are going to ensure that youth will benefit from initiative, from funding that have been provided by the government. And even as we champion for leadership position and the rest, it is also such a time, and I agree with Babowino, that we should be thinking of how else then are we going to ensure that youths get to benefit from the national cake. What if as youths we champion to be part of the grant given by the government, say youths who would have completed college and universities but are not employed will get to earn grant so that they can sustain lives, they can even do business in the meantime as they wait for employment opportunities. I do know of youths in this country who cleared the campus, who cleared the colleges over 10 years ago, but they have been unable to continue, they have been unable to do any business, they have been unable to get any employment. But they also have needs, they have also families to take care of, but they are not earning anything. If it gets to a point where we allocate a certain share of national cake to specifically cater for the youth, I think it will be a big success. Therefore, with those very few remarks, I support the bill. Thank you.
Very well. The member for Chepalungu. And before, honorable member, before you. Yes, resume your seat. Thank you. Before you, honorable members, again join me in welcoming our visitors from the Nyaga Primary School, Gatanga constituency, in Murang'a County, who are the speakers gallery. again, at the public gallery, we have the Nyeri High School, Nyeri Town Constituency, Nyeri County. They are welcome to watch the proceedings of the House. There's a point of order. The Honorable, what is out of order?
Madam Speaker, well, I respect that Standing Order 1 gives you power for discretion, but I think there's a general principle of tradition within this House that when the other side speaks, also this other speaks.
Order,
we have
order.
now had 3 people from the other side. You know that there's been a
Honorable Member for Kilifi North, I don't make you look like you don't know the procedure of the House, because we know we respect you, because you represent the people of Kilifi. You know the procedure of catching the Speaker's eye. Again, when we did open the Parliament, we did discuss about these things. It's not about where you sit. It's a free sitting. Can I inform you that it's a free sitting Parliament? You can sit anywhere. And again, your report, you cannot just come in and assume that you're going to get the time to speak while other members came early. The member, you can carry on.
Thank you, Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also add my voice on the sensitive issue that touches on the youth of this great nation. This National Youth Council Amendment Bill 2019 has come at the right time when all of us are structuring the country towards the next level of new governance. Without structured mechanisms, youth will not be able to participate in meaningful development agenda in this country. Madam Speaker, I must say that the institution has largely remained ineffective in spite of its roles being clearly spelled out and when anchored in the National Youth Council Act 2009. The youth of this country are left out in participation of all national matters. I give you an instance of the sports fund board in this country. It's so worrying to have one of our own elders, who is now age 94 years, being the chair of the National Sports Fund. You would wonder how he'll be able to advocate for the youth of this country at such age, where he's already earning stipends and all that is of age, and even getting the NSSF and all that for the age. It's so worrying, Madam Speaker. If the leadership of this country wants to see the light of economic growth, I dare tell them to bring the larger percentage of the population, that is the youth, to actively participate in the governance of this country. If we leave the country behind, we leave our youth behind, it's so difficult to realize economic growth, because more than 65% of the population that we have now are youth. So it's so worrying when all this percentage is left out in the growth of this country. Youth have been passengers in this country for long enough. I urge this House to move with speed and fully fund National Youth Council to enable them participate actively in the growth of the economy of this country. Every year, Madam Speaker, universities and colleges are injecting more than 100,000 graduates to the village, not to the employment market. So it's so worrying that we are investing in education that will not come and bring profitability to this country. Madam Speaker, creation of jobs and sustainable entrepreneurship for the youth is so urgent. This money that we allocate every year the youth fund, which we all know as honorable members, that we allocate substantial money to the youth fund. I've never seen in the entire Bomet County any constituency distributing youth fund to youth groups. It's so worrying to know or to figure out where this money goes, because we allocate and we don't see them. It is in the interest of the country to bring the innovativeness, creativity of the youth to start being equipped with entrepreneurial skills. It's so important as a house that we make this National Youth Council become active so that all of us can see the fruits of our youth in this country. I look at the rallies that we normally do. If you want, Madam Speaker, to see or spell out and see how the youth of this country are being misused, they are only engaged in political programs, but not something that is self-sustainable on their lives. You find a rally getting more than 20,000 people on a working day, Monday to Friday, daytime. That shows you that the youth are just mere there to be used by most of us. The PPI program that is yet to be decided, the fate of it, it's very important that we all value our youth and create one of the positions. I hear mostly saying we have, if it is a male being in leadership of certain position, then the female to be the deputized. But we need to create a specific position that will be held by the youth of this country so that they can be able to fully participate and have their issues in the boardroom seated and dining with the leadership of this country. With those very many remarks, I beg to support this amendment bill, Madam Speaker.
Very well. Any member with a contrary opinion or wants to negate? Let me give the Honorable CNN first. Charles Nguna, alias CNN.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity given to me. And I would like first to congratulate the honorable member, who is also a member of KYPA like me, for bringing this bill to the floor of the House. Madam Speaker, when I read the bill actually elicits the memories of 2012, 2013, when I was vying for a council member, actually National Youth Council, and I was competitively elected by our people back in my constituency. And I would like to say that we came up with the policies of the mandates the National Youth Council was supposed to carry, and one of the most important was the advocacy and the lobbying of the resources to ensure the youth of this country's benefit. Madam Speaker, I've looked at the bill, the proposed amendments actually, and one of the key objectives was to depoliticize the National Youth Council. When we look at the way we used to elect these members, actually most of us had to seek support from our political parties and also our political leaders, and I think it was not the right way to do it, because for you to become a member, you had actually to lobby for resources, you had actually to lobby the local leaders, including the members of parliament. But this way, we are going to have a competitive process of recruiting the right people to run the council. So I would like to support this based on that. Number two, there was issues of the reform, or rather, to exercise the powers of this council, and it is very critical we reform it and re-energize it so that members of this council can execute the mandate of youth participation in national and international affairs. Madam Speaker, I will also like to congratulate the member for bringing the issues of composition of council members. Previously, we used to be 24, which was really difficult to coordinate or rather to execute the mandates. But now, going to a list of 10 regarding the issues of geographical location, ethnicity, and also the gender, I think we'll have a very good composition of board members. The objective, one of it actually was to align the national youth policies with the current constitution. If you look at the current National Youth Council mandates actually, and also the rules, most of them are aligned by the former constitutions we used to have. But right now, we are going to change some terminologies to align it with the current constitution and the way the boundaries are done. Like we used to have location, we used to have district, but now we will be using the word to deal with the ward and some counties. So it is a good and timely way of realigning this bill to the current constitution. Madam Speaker, I will just remind our colleagues the issues of that, or rather the challenges our youth are really going through. And if you look at every year, the number of the graduates we are injecting into this economy, you will realize that we need this council in place to address some of the issues of employment of the youth, especially these guys are going to have what we call the lobbying rules, so we can work in conjunction with the other bodies to ensure at least 30% of the workforce in national government is composed by the youth. Youth also faces the issue of accessing the finances to run businesses. We have to develop a curricular program whereby we are going to have more business people than employed people in our economy. And that is why we need to align this council and also work close with the National Youth Enterprise Fund. And honestly, this organ has really been idle. I cannot point out in my constituency a single youth person who has been funded by National Youth Enterprise Fund. And we need this council to be very active in that policy. We cannot just be setting aside money and dividing the people who are over 35 years with that fund. So we need to look into that issue when we form and align this National Youth Council bill with that. With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, let me encourage the people who are going to be in this council to take advantage of ICT currently to foster the youth development. Let me also encourage them to act as catalysts of youth empowerment and participation in national politics, in participation in environmental conservation and many other activities. We are going to speak about it. With those few remarks, I support and urge the members of Parliament actually to do it and make sure it is properly implemented to ensure the posterity of our youth in matters of economic and political participation. Thank you.
Very well, very well. You are really in support. Members want to also thank the Honorable Keter for bringing such a very important bill, the National Youth Council Amendment Bill 2019. And those other amendments, you bring them at the Committee of the Whole, and the chair is not in. Let me get the Honorable Cecily Barire. Order, we don't raise hands in the House. Honorable member, let us have some decorum. Honorable Cecily Barire. Yeah, just give her, she does not have a card. Just give her she uses the dispatch box. You use the dispatch box, yes. Yes, you can use the next mic, Honorable Cecily Barire.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to thank the Honorable Keter for bringing this very important amendment. I want to start by saying that my first time when I came to this House as a nominated Member of Parliament in 2003, I actually represented the youth. And so though I ceased being a youth, I'm still very youthful at heart, so I will always stand to really support matters affecting the youth of this country. Madam Speaker, from the latest population census, we've been told that the youth constitute over 50% of our population. And we have also realized that we have an all-time high unemployment rate of 35%. And therefore, it is paramount that a lot of the issues that we deal with as a nation, a lot of the policy decisions we come up with, a lot of legislation that we come up with must now seek to address the issue of youth and unemployment so that we can give hope to the young people of this country. Madam Speaker, let me also say that I'm happy that the matter of the National Youth Council is here. The first time I brought a motion on the establishment of the National Youth Council was in 2004, after the Kenya Young Parliamentarians Association made a visit, an official visit to Uganda to see how the National Youth Council of Uganda works. And we came and moved a motion that passed, Madam Speaker. And we have seen the National Youth Council in place. And I wouldn't quite say whether I have seen real impact of the National Youth Council. And therefore, I hope that KYPA is not just going to just bring this particular bill through Honorable Keter, but also do a serious evaluation and analysis of how NYC in Kenya has worked since its establishment, what are the challenges they are facing, and what we can do as a house to improve the workings of the National Youth Council, whether they are adequately funded so that they are able to really realize their mandate. And so I'll be more happier if I saw a more comprehensive amendment to the entire NYC bill, other than just looking about one particular aspect of how do these representatives end up in the National Youth Council. And while I'm hearing what the Honorable Keter is saying about the fact that we need to depoliticize the National Youth Council, I am actually of a contrary opinion, Madam Speaker, that in fact NYC is a nursery to prepare young people for leadership at a higher level. And therefore, getting representatives into the NYC through elections would be, in my view, be a better way of getting representatives than if we just say that the director of youth at the county will sit and had pick youth right from the village to the county level, and therefore from county to national level. I feel that it is open to abuse. Why do I say so? We know the workings of this country is that there's a likely chance that the officer, the government officer who is charged with the responsibility of identifying these young people may just decide he or she will pick young people who they feel are friendly to them or are in government, quote unquote. So what happens if you have a young person who is seen to be in the opposition, but is a good leader? Who puts him on the table in the NYC? I would rather we allow, like the case in Uganda, for competitive elections that are steered by our electoral commission here in Kenya, so that it is competitive, and then the young people can register into a register where you're known who is a member of NYC with a small fee, maybe 5 shillings, 10 shillings, or even no fee at all, and they can be able to elect right from the village level all the way to the national level. That way, we can give room for any young person to be the leader in NYC. And then see how we can protect it from the influence of us, the politicians and political parties, so that we get truly young people who are key and truly committed to matters of young people. That's the way I see it, Madam Speaker. Let's create this as a nursery where young people can be able to realize their potential, can be able to participate. The reason I'm a member of parliament today is because I started as a student leader, just like Babu Owino at the university. I was the chair of the Students' Union of Egerton University. And then from there, I joined the youth agenda, and we started the youth agenda as an NGO that is still doing very well today. And I was in the national youth movement. Now, those opportunities gave me a chance to prepare myself for leadership at the national level. And I think it was a good nursery for me, having been a young woman and a time when women were not really recognized a lot in the political fields. And so I feel this would be a good opportunity. But then, that's my personal opinion. Maybe if you could come up with clear guidelines on how they'll be handpicked, I would prefer an elective process of getting leaders into the National Youth Council. With those few remarks, I support, but with a rider that I feel that there's a better way to do this than handpicking young people. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very well. You're the rider, you can consult with the chair, with the mover, and again, your proposed amendments would really also be very welcome. The committee of the whole. The member for Honorable Ketera Gideon. You're on intervention and you're the mover of the bill. Yes. Yes, let me hear from you.
No, maybe for purposes of understanding and guiding the debate was the politicization of the council was not actually...
Honorable Keter, you're out of order. You are actually out of order. You did move the bill, and I'm sure you are taking notes, and you still have time to reply. During reply, you can address such issues as a matter of procedure of the House. Again, honourable members, please join me in welcoming members of a consortium of the Youth Serving Organization, YSO, in Kenya, who are seated at the public gallery. They are here to watch the proceedings of the House, and especially on that very important bill by Honorable Gideon Keter. The next on my request list is the member for Mathare, Honorable Lodge. Yes.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much, and allow me to thank the member who has brought up this bill. I want to begin by saying that the questions about youth is very crucial to the well-being of this nation, and I want to pick up from where Honorable Wasiali. He gave a challenge to the youth and said that it is a good thing that young people, especially young members of parliament, make a good case for the reason for which they are in parliament and bring up legislation such as this one. And for that reason, I want to commend the honorable member for the time he has taken to develop this bill. But I want to remind this House that this very same House sat here when we had a motion which the member of parliament for Mathare brought. Very, very well debated issues, similar sentiments made such as this. When the bill went to the Budget and Appropriation Committee, and I would have hoped that they should have been here, that bill, Madam Speaker, was killed on the grounds that it would occasion a 30, 35 or 40 billion bill to the exchequer. So, Madam Speaker, we are sitting here with a lot of good words around how we care about the youth, but there are structures within our parliamentary systems that will not allow anything that will actually accrue in terms of tangible benefits to the youth to see the light of day. There are mandarins from Treasury who look at every single bill that passes here and what monetary implications they have. While every year we lose 30% of our budget money to corruption. Out of the 3 trillion budget that we passed last year, 30% would be close to about 700 billion. In the bill, we were proposing a 40 billion grant that would be cascaded to the constituencies and help the young people to be able to create sports stadiums, cinema machinani, ICT hubs, other creative things that would open up employment opportunity to the young people. But what did this House do? That bill was short. I sure hope that the bill, by the honorable member, we will not suffer the same fate. My second point, now on back itself. As we speak and we are debating here, the Budget and Appropriation Committee are somewhere sitting looking at the departmental and ministerial budget proposals under the BPS, and they will bring very shortly before this House billions of shillings allocated to line ministry allocations. I will invite this House, like I did last year, go through line by line of those programs of government, and especially the ones relating to youth, and you will be very surprised the amount of money as Parliament that we dedicate to the empowerment, employment of the young people of the Republic of Kenya. So in Kiswahili, if you allow me, and I'm very conscious of the standing orders, in Kiswahili, my law professor, PLO Lumumba, used to say, munatupaka mafuta kwenye mgongo wa chupa. As members of Parliament, this is what we are doing. When the budget comes here, please interrogate it and find out. If you're going to put 40, 50 billion to other things, you can surely put 40, 50 billion as a fund to empower the young people of the Republic of Kenya. My point number 3 is that we are currently debating on a national discourse on how we can change our national governance structures. And our devolved units have requested, and I agree, that we raise the threshold for them from 15% to 35%. The point that I want us to pursue is that the same way we do for CDF, that is so structured, 2% for sports, 2% for environment, X%, I think a maximum of 35% for bursary and education, 5% for administration. The same should be done when we increase that money in respect of counties and demand that 5% of that money that goes to the counties, if they get 35%, must be dedicated to youth programs, youth activities, creation of sports stadiums, creations of sports academies, ICT hubs, cinema mashinani, studio mashinani, and the things that the young people of this country can gainfully get anything to do from. There are funds, and that's my point number 4. There are many littered funds that we have in terms of Uwezo Fund, in terms of Youth Enterprise Fund. I think there was a Biashara Fund that the committee responsible for delegated legislation nullified. Those funds serve very little purpose. I want to agree with the members of Parliament who have spoken. In Mathare constituency, and I am in my 3rd year, we have been told that you cannot access this money because the people who borrowed in the last regime where I was not member of Parliament have not returned this money. So what am I supposed to do? Second condition, you must have good conduct, you must have KRA clearance, you must have this certificate and that certificate, and I agree with Honorable Hamisi, who said that all persons who want to do or benefit in terms of youth are people who want to do entrepreneurship. We can surely give grants to the young people in the same way that we do with CDF. And CDF is the best managed funds, and the benefits of it are very tangible. We can do the same for youth programs that are cascaded at the constituency level. And so my challenge to Keter is that as you create the structures and align them to the new constitution and increase the representation, please consider that 1, we create a fund and then cascade it to the constituency levels and have those funds managed by the constituency branch of the National Youth Council at the constituency level. This is in line with our principle of devolution. Under Article 10.2, devolution is now a principle and value of governance, also captured under Article 174 of the Constitution. We surely cannot be concentrating and focusing at the center instead of going down. So I will encourage that you bring up amendments so that instead of having the leadership static here, let us have those similar structures replicated at the constituency level, and let the objectives, powers, and functions of the NIC at the national level to carry the responsibility of supervising 290 National Youth Council constituency committees, complete with a fund that can do proper things for the young people of Kenya. My last point, I want to agree with Honorable Cecil Mbarire that this kind of leadership, and she was in the youth agenda, there are those who were in student leadership. I was in student leadership myself when I was doing my first degree at Kenyatta University. There are those who look up to the glory days of the student leadership. These were the preparatory ground and stages where we developed national leaders. But look at what the Education Act has done in respect of our university students now. And I was hoping that Babu Owino would have spoken to that question because he brought an amendment. Why would the Ministry of Education, at a time when we have a right under the Constitution to universal suffrage, one man, one vote, for the university to decide that they can micromanage and decide either by way of, I don't know, whatever that system they call it, but Musumba, you might know, what system is that they use to determine cronies and people who are close to the administration, and therefore robbing us of very robust leaders who can be our leaders, ministers, prime ministers, members of parliament, and presidents in the next dispensation. As we look at this, Honorable Keter, please also look at the Education Act and work together with Babu Owino so that we remove that draconian provision that requires that the university comes up with some funny delegate system that circumscribes how we elect our university students. Otherwise, I support, but a lot of work needs to be done here. And lastly, legislation. We have so many pieces of littered legislation. National Youth Council, National Employment, something. There is, I don't know which other one. I had proposed in my bill, which was killed by Bach, that we have one big bill that deals with the youth and put everything inside that bill.
Very well, the member for Mathare. And again, for really understanding the standing orders for the purpose of those who came to watch the proceedings. You did quote the Patrick Lumumba. That's why you quoted in Kiswahili. Otherwise, we do speak in English or Kiswahili and you finish in Kiswahili, or English and you finish in English. Next member, the member for Kilifi North, Honorable Baya.
I thank you, Speaker, and I would like to say one or two things regarding this amendment bill that we have. Speaker, one of the things that you realize that the youth, as the recent statistics show, the census, is that they form a bulk of the population in this country. Therefore, when we have a bulk of the population in this country, it also means that the bulk of this population consumes a bigger budget of the country in terms of education, in terms of healthcare, and in terms of a lot of the things that goes in budgeting for this country. So you realize that the biggest chunk of the resources in this country are actually consumed and used by the youth. But then, one of the things that we must look at when we follow and try to pursue law like this is that anytime you hear the youth trying to create space for themselves through affirmative action, through bills, same way as the women, then you realize that there must be something wrong with the management of resources within the country. That if this country's economy was growing, the youth would not be looking for special positions using an act of parliament. They would be moving in the current of the nation. But if you see that the Honorable Gideon Keter brings a law as such as this to try to create a youth council, then you realize that there must be something that the youth are not getting within the main system. That's why they want to create a niche for themselves to be able to access a lot of the things that we have in this country. But, Madam Speaker, what I would like to say and continue to say is this, that when a country functions very well, when everything in a country is constant and moving as it's supposed to be, the youth would not be seeking opportunities through affirmative action. What do the youth want? The youth want jobs. The youth want an education, a good education. The youth want opportunities in business. They want many opportunities to make their life prosper. But when it comes to a level like this, that now youth are saying, no, we need to amend this act, we need to put this, it tells you that there's something wrong within the system of government, and that's why the youth cannot prosper on their own. They must be created for opportunities within an act of parliament. Speaker, I would like to say this again, that at independence, we had people in this country like Tom Joseph Mboya, who as a young person shook the pillars of this country, and everybody knew about Tom Joseph Mboya, and he was barely 26 years. But the country listened to him. You had Kenneth Matiba then, who was a principal secretary or permanent secretary of the Ministry of Education at 29 years. That's what he was. I know we are quoting prime ministers of other countries who are young at this age and all that. But look at this country. There are people in this country who succeeded to push the agenda, economic agenda, the agenda of this country, when they were very young. Not because special seats or special things were created for them, but there was an equal opportunity for them to be able to pursue their dreams, and they succeeded. But today what we are trying to do in this country is every time there is a problem in access, we want to create opportunities through affirmative action. We have young people in this country who have come to this parliament. Mohammed Ali here, MP for Nyali, he has come to this parliament as a young person and has fought his battle, and he has managed to come here. Baba Wino has come here as an elected member. And what we need to do, Madam Speaker, is to create an equal playing field without having to fall back all the time to affirmative action and creating positions for people. So while I support this bill, that it should go through, there are certain things that this country needs to be re-engineered to be able to give every person an equal opportunity and opportunities to be able to achieve. Madam Speaker, if you look at youth in business today, in the world over, young people are succeeding in business. Even in this country, young people are succeeding in business. But what do we need to do to ensure that in the business world, the young person can get a loan without having to be asked for a title deed? He can be able to access credit without having to be told, give us this. He can be able to access employment without having to be told, give us 10 years experience. You know, these are the things that the young people in this country are looking for. They are looking for opportunities to develop and be economically empowered. But when the countries are playing, the playfield is not level, then we come to a situation like this. Well, I appreciate this bill. I also want to say, and also urge the mover of this motion, of this bill, Honorable Kerter, that while we are saying that the genesis of this bill and the memorandum says that we want to depoliticize, actually that is the word, that is the key word, to depoliticize the Youth Council. As you go through the amendments, you realize that we're actually deeply depoliticizing it because we are giving permanent secretaries an opportunity to appoint a lot of the people there. Then I saw something else in that bill that is, if I can refer to you on that bill, where we say not more than 8 other youths, of whom at least 3 shall be of female gender. If you look at that article, why are we being specific that we want, instead of saying that the opposite gender or the other gender, but we are specifically saying, supposing the others are also female, what happens? Do we still nominate them? The other issue that you need to look at this bill that requires a rework is that 8 youths elected by the youth in such a manner as may be prescribed. We are giving the method of prescribing how this youth will be elected to a cabinet secretary. Again, we are taking away the gains. From the same line, we are saying that youth will be elected, but then we are saying that the cabinet secretary will determine the method of election of those youth. And I think that requires a relook. And then we are giving at least 7 of the positions to permanent secretaries and ministers to appoint youth directly. So when you end up having more people again appointed and you have only 8 elected, then you have actually not achieved what you want to achieve in this bill. You're actually deeply politicizing it because those people who have been appointed will come with instructions from the appointing authorities on what to do. So, Madam Speaker, what I would have liked to say is that all the people that are coming to the National Youth Council be elected in the format that democracy allows people to be elected on a universal suffrage. That is why we create competition. We are able to actually sieve and see the good leaders that will be like Cecil Barire here, who said she went through all those areas of election and all that. The students who go to universities, they go through an election process. I want to appreciate what Honorable Olosh talked about, that now we are bringing a method of electing leaders within universities that will actually kill leadership, budding leadership. Why? Because a few cronies will be elected or will be appointed by administration, and they go there and they will put the person that the administration wants instead of a properly democratic election process within universities. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, this is a very good bill. But again, we also need to look at where else are matters of youth, which other acts are talk about youth in this country, and try to pick all those things and bring into one bill so that they do not continue to contradict the spirit in which this National Youth Council bill is pedestaled on. Madam Speaker, I'd like to say one last thing. The culture of hard work and commitment. When we continue to bring in the issues of affirmative action into the youth issues, we're actually killing that, I'll be appointed, I'll be nominated. Yes, it's a good training ground, but why don't we allow people to go through competitive processes so that at the end of the day, we get quality leadership in the Youth Council and in the country. Lastly, Madam Speaker, I would like to see the potential in the youth in this country is amazing. And in the world is amazing. We have seen young people moving strong businesses. In the United States, you have the young business leaders of America, who are trained even from high school to be leaders in the business sector. And at the end, they emerge, and they have always driven the economy in the United States. I think what we need now, apart from the National Youth Council, is also to bring something on the young business leaders of Kenya, so that they can be nurtured to be successful and drive this economy. With those many remarks, I support and I thank you.
Let's have the Honourable Member for Keyo South, Honourable Rono Kipkoge.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also support this amendment bill. I want to reiterate what the Honourable Member has just said about depoliticize, which our friend Keter has emphasized. The people taking over these positions that are for youth should actually bear no political inclination, because that is when we will get pure members there. In fact, the way he also came to Parliament, it should also have some competitive nature in it, such that you do not just come because a certain party have said, we want you. They should go through some competitive process so that the youth may feel that they have gotten their real representative that they have actually desired. The youth are facing a lot of challenges in Kenya at the moment. And when you bring up this amendment so that they can have the right leadership, that way they will be able to address to these challenges that the youth are facing, and more particularly the unemployment. As our Chief Whip stated, that you do not expect a youth to have experience when he's looking for employment, and yet he has just finished school. Where does he get experience from? Because the youth is literally marginalized, because you are telling him, we want experience for you to get a job. We want capital for you to get a tender, for example. And of course, if you want to even further your education, you say again, The father tells him, you have finished your first degree. The second degree is up to you. Now, where does he get the money to even further his education? So the way the youth drives their agenda, they should follow and borrow a leaf from the ladies, the women, the way they are driving their agenda. We want the youth also to drive their agenda in that, with that spirit and that energy that the ladies are having, because they are always shouting at the top of their voices about gender issues. We want to hear the youth also doing exactly that. Another issue, Honorable Madam Chair, is the issue of BBI. BBI have told us that the youth agenda is really being addressed on. We do hope and pray it shall be so, but it is already too political. I only wonder whether they will. I want to request an appeal to Keter, the mover of this motion, not to over-rely so much on the BBI and so forth. Drive your agenda the way you are driving, do the amendments that you have brought forth, and let the youth be vibrant in fighting for their matters. I want to support the honorable member who talked about a certain percentage of the money to be put aside in counties, to be put aside even in our CDF funds. That way, we will really address the youth issues, the youth agenda. You do not expect the youth to actually start business ventures without money. You do not expect them to do anything, literally. Nothing can move without a budget. So we need to give some portion of the money, and this parliament should take the lead to set aside funds for the youth through the CDF and through the counties. As we go globally in nature, we have countries that have got job opportunities all over the place. Let's have a way that we can reach those countries. Let's have a way that we can send our youth to those countries which have got vacancies in various jobs, in various sectors. Because when you sit down here, when you find children who have managed to reach Australia, who have managed to reach Canada, you hear that they have opportunities of jobs all over the place. What can we do through the labor ministry and so forth to take our youth, those who actually qualify for those jobs, to those countries to work there? Because there's no need of sitting with them here and they are doing virtually nothing. With that, Honorable Speaker, I support.
Honorable Member for Kisauni. Bogo, Menza.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to echo my voice on this extremely important bill, the National Youth Council Amendment Bill. Madam Speaker, from the onset, I wish to state clearly that I fully support the bill. It's extremely important, and we as members of Parliament, we have to walk the talk. Madam Speaker, we've had occasions here in this same House whereby we as members, we continuously advocate for the youth. But whenever after the vetting has been done, like now I know there are quite a number of vettings that have been done, and you'll find those who have been appointed, they are all above 61 years old. And yes, it is the same House that will confirm them as leaders. And yet we are here advocating for the youth. Madam Speaker, we as members of this House, we have to be honest to the youth of this country. Madam Speaker, the census results were released late last year. And yes, 80% of those results confirms that 80% of the population of this country are youth. So 73% confirms, thank you, Honorable Makau. 73%, they fall under the youth category. So this clearly confirms that this country is a youth nation. But what are we doing about this youth?
What mechanism, what resources have we deployed to ensure the youth are catered for whatever they want to do? There are issues of medical. There are issues of funding to encourage them to venture into businesses. But, Madam Speaker, this has not been actualized. Madam Speaker, the government came up with so many initiatives to support the youth. They came up with the youth fund. They came up with the Uwezo fund. There is the Biashara fund. But, Madam Speaker, all these initiatives, they are not delivering what is expected of them. If you look at, like my constituents in Kisauni, we've been applying, my youth have been applying to get access, to get funding from the youth fund, from Uwezo fund. But there are a lot of bureaucracy, and to make it worse, like the youth fund is centralized. Everything has to be decided here in Nairobi. It's not like Uwezo fund whereby we have patrons. The members of parliament are patrons of the Uwezo fund. But nevertheless, most of our youth today, they ended up maybe being given small loans here and there, and they've ended up in CRB. So they cannot be able even to access those funds, because one of the requirements for you to access youth fund today, one of the the requirement for you to access Uwezo fund, you must be cleared by CRB. And most of our youth are victims of those loans that they were given to them, either maybe through Fuliza, Mshwari, and so forth and so forth. So, Madam Speaker, there is need of all these funds to be restructured if we really want to help the youth of this country. Madam Speaker, we came up with also the AGPO initiative, whereby the youth of this country can be able to access the government procurement opportunities. But, Madam Speaker, 30% of those tenders are supposed to be allocated to the youth and women and Kenyans with physical disabilities. But does it really happen? The answer is no. Because today, you go fight for a tender, maybe through a CDF or through KERA or through the county or even through the national government. Even if you are awarded that tender, that youth cannot be able to raise the required capital to do that job. What happens? You end up defaulting in doing that job, and eventually it is maybe re-advertised or it goes to somebody else. And what has actually happened, Madam Speaker, because the youth do not have the resources, the required resources to do these jobs, you will find those who are rich, the rich people, the rich business community, they have actually started companies which have youth as a face, but at the end of the day, it's being controlled by the same people. So a youth will just be given the tender, but at the end of the day, he will not be able to realize the full benefit of that tender. It is the person behind it who is pulling the strings, who will be able to take the bigger cut. The youth will end up maybe with 10% of what will be realized. So we are not helping the youth of this country. We came up with a program like Kazi kwa Vijana. Eventually, we saw what happened. It had actually raised hopes for many youth of this country. You go to any constituency, you will find youth engaged in some activities. But what happened? It was corruption came in. Eventually, the whole program was killed off. And we left our youth hue and dry. And today, Madam Speaker, what we are waiting for, this is a time bomb. We cannot be talking of 73% of this country being controlled by the youth, and we, who have already transited that category, we are sitting pretty quiet and assuming things will just happen. Things will never happen if we as a house do not take action and push things to the end. Madam Speaker, this country is not a manufacturing nation. This country is an agrarian nation. But we can be able to revitalize this country if we actually and focus to empower the youth, whereby the funding and everything can be provided to them so that they can be able to start their own businesses. My colleague here, Honorable Owen Bayer, talked about the youth business leaders, like what is happening in the US. And these are the things that need to be initiated and actualized, because we know this country does not have plants. This country does not have oil. We just discovered oil the other day from Turkana, but even that, we do not have like a refinery there. We are just transporting that oil via a road, via the road network to Mombasa, and the same oil is exported out of this country. but it does not actually, we do not see the value addition on that oil, which could have actually created employment for the main youth of this country. So, Madam Speaker, there is serious need of we as members to consider how best we can be able to bring resources together and make sure this 73% of the Kenyan population is taken care of. Madam Speaker, we started the TVETs. But even the TVETs themselves, which the law is very clear that they're supposed to be devolved to each and every constituency. But there is a lot of politics in it. Today, there are quite a number of constituencies in this country who have not benefited from the TVETs. And we know the TVETs are supposed to provide a backbone and sound training on technical skills. And we know if our youth are trained properly, this country can become a major exporter of skills out of this country to many parts of the world, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, if these youth are trained, we can have a serious and a vibrant manpower out of this country called Kenya. So, Madam Speaker, it is my wish that the member here, Honorable Gideon Keter, he should seriously take into consideration the issues that we've raised, not only about the membership, reducing the members from 24 to 10, at the national level, but it needs to cascade down there. It needs to go to the constituency level. It needs to have, these members, they have to be elected competitively. It's not like to be spoon-fed or to be nominated to this position. The moment you are nominated, basically somebody is actually pulling the strings for you. He's actually controlling you because you are there not by your own, but somebody has actually planted you there. So, Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, I fully support the bill. Thank you.
Honorable Denita Gatti.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to support this very crucial amendment bill. That is a National Youth Council Amendment Bill. Madam Speaker, this is a bill that is coming at the right time, Madam Speaker, because if you look at this country, Madam Speaker, we have just come out of a census and we have seen how young people in this country, Madam Speaker, constitute over half of our population. Young people of this country, Madam Speaker, are over 73%. And Madam Speaker, these 73% of our youth are young people that are unemployed, they are young people that are untrained, they are young people that are unbanked. They are young people that face a myriad of challenges, Madam Speaker. And young people, Madam Speaker, live in our counties. Madam Speaker, allow me to thank the member who has brought this amendment, Honorable Keter. Madam Speaker, the youth population in this country is a population that needs serious attention. And I'm happy, Madam Speaker, that this August House is looking at the issues of young people as an issue of serious consideration. Madam Speaker, what are the challenges of our young people in this country? Madam Speaker, every year, young graduates leave our universities, Madam Speaker, with their master's degrees, with PhDs, with undergraduate degrees, Madam Speaker, to go and roam our streets. Madam Speaker, I come from the county of Migori. And Madam Speaker, I speak on behalf of our young people in the county of Migori, where I come from. From all the way from Rongo, Madam Speaker, all the way to Isebania border, where I come from. Madam Speaker, you'll find a lot of young people on our streets with degrees, and they have nothing to do apart from the border business that they do. Madam Speaker, young people in this country should not only look at border as a business. We need to diversify. Madam Speaker, it comes again with the capacity building, and it comes with the training, and it comes with how we empower our young people. Madam Speaker, I want to suggest this because, Madam Speaker, if I look at the amendment bill, it is suggesting, and it is good, I want to say it is good because it is looking at how then do we get into strengthening the National Youth Council at the national level, and we also have to bear in mind that a majority of our young people live in our counties. This county chapter of the National Youth Council should actually look at the young people in the counties. Madam Speaker, it is the responsibility of our governors, county governors, to take care of the young people, because that is where young people reside. Madam Speaker, I would suggest, even as we move around and think about empowering our young people, we should ensure, every county governor should ensure that they put in place mechanism to absorb our young people who are university graduates or who are continuing with the education to attain what we are calling the skills And the internship, Madam Speaker, every county should set aside a criteria in which it creates internships for our youths to be able to gain internships and the experiences that are usually sought upon when it is time to look for employment. Because employers look for experience. Where do young people get experience all the way from Isibania and you want to come here when your own county does not prepare you? It is therefore the responsibility of our county government to ensure that even 30%, as the Constitution stipulates, Madam Speaker, 30% of our young people should actually be absorbed, even if it is internship, to gain the experience. Madam Speaker, we have done well in this House in terms of scrapping the requirements of employment. If you look at most of our employers in this country, Madam Speaker, you will realize that employers look for what we are calling, I don't know, the CRB, the loan clearing certificate. They look at the HELB certificate. They look at certificate of good conduct. So many of these requirements are things that young people living in Migori or living in Turkana do not have. If we have not prepared our young people in terms of all these structures from our own villages where we come from, how then do we expect those young people to get employment in Nairobi or get employment in Mombasa or Garissa? Madam Speaker, I want to suggest, and I'm happy that this amendment bill is looking at the whole issue of youth with special needs. Madam Speaker, if there is a group of young people in this country who are suffering, are youth with disabilities. Madam Speaker, youth with disabilities, hearing impaired or visual impaired, or youth with wheelchairs and youth with disabilities are not even seen. They don't go to school. They don't go to get any form of employment. That is why you have seen, Madam Speaker, in our counties most of the times, you will see people with disabilities, young people with disabilities, crawling all the way to the governor's office to look for employment. Madam Speaker, we need to be very, very serious. And I'm happy that this amendment bill seeks to look at the issues of young people with disabilities, because nobody talks about youth with disabilities, Madam Speaker. There is no office. And we have also to look at the infrastructure of the offices. Where these people go to work, where do they go to look for jobs? Madam Speaker, take a scenario. When on this earth do you see a young person with a disability or a person with disability going to be interviewed? Because, Madam Speaker, as a member of parliament for persons with disabilities, I have seen situations in this country where when an employer sees that you have a disability, and even if you have the right papers, you will not even be given an opportunity to present yourself for an interview. We have to change that mindset if we are talking about leaving no one behind in this country. We have to ensure that our young people actually get equal employment, equal opportunities. Young people who do not go to universities, Madam Speaker, where do they go to? They are supposed to get into other institutions of higher learning. We have to make those institutions accessible to our young people. We have to ensure that they also get in and get a job. Madam Speaker, I am happy that devolution has provided opportunities for jobs. This is where now the National Youth Amendment Bill also needs to take in mind. Madam Speaker, you have seen right now we are in the mood of BBI, and I'll not be shy to talk about BBI and how BBI is pronouncing itself for the tax rebates of young people in this country. That is how, Madam Speaker, I support that amendment, because, Madam Speaker, the BBI, what BBI is proposing in this country is provide tax rebates for young people in this country, so that you are able to get access to loans, you are able to support your small and micro medium enterprises, what we are calling SMEPs in this country. Madam Speaker, those are things that actually, once we actually implement them, we are going to ensure that our young people are able to live a dignified life. You cannot be in a situation where from Nairobi, all the way from Isebania border, all the way from Vanga in Mombasa, all the way to Turkana, Madam Speaker, the only people you are seeing are young people using border borders on our streets. That is not the job of young people in this country. The education must guarantee employment, Madam Speaker. There is no point of going to university, and university cannot guarantee you employment to put food on the table for your family. Madam Speaker, we have to be very serious. And that is why I am supporting this amendment bill, to ensure that once we have and you create a network of what we are calling a National Youth Council at the top with a lean composition, we are also having a branch at the county level where a majority of our young people live, Madam Speaker. I fully support. Thank you.
Member from Thiwa, Honorable Martin Owino.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. And I want to restrict myself to the bill. Gideon Kiter, this is wonderful. The reason why I'm supporting this bill, and some areas you really need to think through, is the youth is going through what they are going through because there is no
functioning, well-oiled council to articulate, advocate, and defend, and sometimes go to court for legal address when their rights are tampered with. That is missing. So if I look at the principal objective of your bill, is trying to address that by having the right membership of the council. The problem which seems to be teething out, and other members have talked about, is yes, you can depoliticize, but what is the replacement procedure? If it is appointment, then we have another problem. And in fact, in this country, why we have corruption everywhere is because of appointments. Because the appointees owes the appointer when it comes to loyalty. So you can do so many things because you can't say no. Because if you say no, maybe you'll be kicked out. So look at that appointment issue. Even the chair for the council should be elected first by the stakeholders in that council, and then the appointment by the minister or by the CS becomes just a formality. But if we just leave it open for them to appoint, then that loyalty will be superseding fighting for the rights of the people. So I think that's one point. But I think if I read it well, this is not a money bill, and that's really made me a bit jittery, because for the council, well, to enact the amendment may not require funds, but to make the council effective, because most council get money from the government as a seed money, and then they get their own. But for the council to be effective, both at the national level and county level, they will need to be resourced very well so that they can stand up for the rights of the youth. And when that is done, I think what should follow is the empowerment of the youth to formulate and implement their own programs. The problem we have now, Madam Speaker, is that there are programs which were formulated by somebody else, and youth just receives them. They are heaped onto them. They are not a part of it, and that becomes a problem. Honorable Keter, there is also an element of capacity building. For this council to function, they will have to go through myriads of trainings and exposures. I don't know where funding will come from, but you said you'll be also acting in league with other donors. Maybe that can help. Madam Speaker, one aspect which, if this council is well anchored, should address is the career counseling and guidance. By God's grace, I became what I became because somebody guided me on what to do in order to become who you want to become. And this is high school. We used to write career, and you follow it through the degree level and become what you want. We had talked in this house that we need a career counseling and guidance from the constituency level so that kids can grow to become what they really aspire to become. That is missing. And also the talent academy in constituencies so that these talents can be identified earlier for kids to run on the rails which they love and cherish best. The notion, though, should be the notion that older people should not be in places. Let me put it this way, Honorable Member, so you get it. Even if we have all the CSs as young people, it will not address the problem of the young people. What really will, Madam Speaker, is the sensitivity to what young people is going through and the framework of addressing them from the grassroots to the national level. That is what will happen. Otherwise, we have a very good example of a young CS who is now facing legal issues. The issue of integrity, vision, commitment comes from the grassroots. And even us here who are past youth, we can still consider ourselves current youth because I'm a father of a youth. And so I'm sensitive to what goes on in youth's life. So it's an analogy that cuts across gender, women for women, youth for youth. Really, as a nation, we should have a framework of addressing the population segments of our people, rather than looking and yearning to put them right there in order to solve the problem. It wouldn't work. That is missing in our national thread of responsibility as Kenyans. So, Madam Speaker, in conclusion, I want to urge the KYPA, even though there's no youth in BBI Secretariat, to me that does not really matter. What matters is how organized are you in presenting your views, what you want, defending them, and up to the time for voting for yes and no. If we don't do that, we keep on crying for them, and before you know it, you may become a crybaby. And that's, in the analogy of solving problem, does not help anybody. So I would encourage KYPA, if you are hearing me, organize yourself, present your issues, defend them, and get them passed. And we will back it up. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I support this, and I will encourage our honorable member and the entire House to fast-track this so that we can get this in place to address the problem of young people, including those who are in DEWA, that has over 70% joblessness. If we do that, we will close the doors, the revolving doors of poverty, unemployment, and also bad behavior, which is creeping into the young people's domain. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
One member of the KYPA is Honorable Mohamed Ali. You can take up.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Ningelipenda kwanza kumpongeza Mheshimiwa mwenza Bwana Keter kwa kuleta maoni na fikra ya vijana katika bunge hili. Ningelipenda pia kusema ya kwamba hakika kama taifa tuna tatizo kubwa, kwa sababu tangu najadi, tangu enzi za hayati Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, hayati Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, Mwai Kibaki na sasa Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, ni kana kwamba vijana wamekuwa ni vijana wa kupewa ahadi kwa midomo tu, wakati ambapo wanatakikana kutimiza malengo ya watu fulani. 73% ya Wakenya sasa tunaambiwa ni vijana. Lakini pia katika bunge hili letu ni dhahiri ya kwamba hiyo 75% haionekani. Kuingia katika bunge hili, kupata kazi, kutafuta riziki katika Jamhuri ya Kenya imekuwa ngumu sana kwa vijana wetu. Na ni kwa sababu ya sheria ambazo zinaundwa, sheria ambazo hazina huruma na vijana wa taifa hili, sheria ambazo badala ya ziwalinde zinaweza kuwaangamiza. Kwa mfano, masuala ya kuteua mwakilishi ama msimamizi wa vijana katika taifa hili, si vyema kwa waziri kuachiwa nafasi hiyo. Nafasi hiyo inafaa iachiwe vijana, wajiteulie wenyewe na waangalie ni kijana mgani ambaye ataweza kuzungumzia kuhusu maslahi ya vijana. Katika bunge hili idadi ya vijana ni wachache. Wale wanaozidi kurudi hapa miaka nenda miaka rudi, na sio bunge peke yake bali Jamhuri ya Kenya katika uongozi mbalimbali, ni makaburu weusi ambao wamekataa kuachilia nafasi kwa vijana. Na ndio maana unaona hali ya uhalifu inazidi kuwa juu. Vijana wakionekana kule mitaani, vijana wakiomba kazi, sura ya vijana kwa serikali ya Jamhuri ya Kenya ni sura ya uhalifu. Vijana wengi wanapotezwa, vijana wengi wanauawa kwa sababu hawapewi nafasi ya kujiendeleza. Katika masuala ya kikazi hawawezi pewa kazi kwa sababu kupata nafasi hiyo ya kazi ni sharti uwe mjuzi wa kazi hiyo. Utakuwa vipi mjuzi kama hupewi nafasi hiyo? Kwa mfano, wabunge wengi wachanga walio katika bunge la taifa hili hawajawahi kuwa wabunge, lakini kwa sababu ya kukataa na kupinga dhulma za hapo awali waliweza kusimama kidete na kufika katika bunge hili. Kwa hivyo sisi ujuzi tunaupata ndani ya bunge hili. Huwezi pata ujuzi ya bunge ukiwa nje. Huwezi pata ujuzi ya kuwa daktari ukiwa nje. Wewe ni mwanagenzi, hupewi nafasi ya kuweza kujifunza. Mambo mengine ni kuhusiana na masuala ya elimu. Ningelipenda kumkosoa Profesa Magoha kidogo na kusema ya kwamba ukiweka akili yako katika vyuo vikuu sana na usahau kuwekeza katika vyuo vya anuai, basi kutakuwa na matatizo chungu nzima. Kwa sababu mimi siwezi kuwa profesa, sote hatutoshei nafasi ya kuwa profesa, sote hatutoshei nafasi ya kuwa madaktari, mainjinia. Kuna wale wanaongozwa na talanta ya Mwenyezi Mungu. Huyu amepewa talanta ya kucheza mpira, huyu amepewa talanta ya kuimba, huyu amepewa talanta ya kufanya sarakasi, na ni sharti tuweze kupewa nafasi hizi kwa vijana ili waweze kukuza talanta zao. Vikwazo ambavyo vimewekwa kwa vijana, masuala ya good conduct, KRA, CRB, ESCC, na hata bei ya kupata leseni kwa NTSA ya shilingi 3,000 inakuwa ni kama dhulma na kejeli kwa vijana. Napotazama siasa za nchi zinavyoenda na kuangalia masuala ya BBI ambayo inasema ni kuwaleta Wakenya pamoja, hamna mtu anapingamizi nalo. Lakini ukiangalia katika msafara wa BBI, hamna sauti ya vijana ambao ni 73%. Hamna sauti ambayo imekuwa pale ya kusema itazungumzia masuala ya vijana peke yake. BBI itatumia vijana kuwasilisha hoja yao, kuwasilisha matokeo yao, lakini itahakikisha kwamba hawa vijana wanao idadi kubwa katika nchi hii hawataweza kupata nafasi. Pesa kwa vijana ni swala lingine. Eneo bunge langu la Nyali kuna hizi pesa ambazo zinatengwa za vijana, lakini vijana kupata ni ngumu sana kwa sababu ya masharti, wizi na ufujaji wa pesa za vijana. Dhambi zilizotekelezwa na vijana hapo awali zinabandikizwa vijana wa sasa. Ukienda kuomba pesa za vijana unaambiwa kwamba kuna wale ambao hawajalipa deni, wakilipa ndio tutawapatia. Hizi pesa ni kana kwamba zinatumiwa na watu fulani ambao sio vijana, zinaenda kusaidia watu ambao rika yao imepita rika ya vijana. Kwa hivyo haya matatizo yote tunayoleta kwa Wakenya vijana 100% ndiyo inaosababisha nchi hii kuenda segemnege. Leo kuwa kijana ndani ya nchi hii ni dhambi. Ukipatikana usiku, mchana, sura zetu zinakaa sura za wezi kwa sababu hatuna kazi, tuna njaa. Tumeponzwa na serikali, hatupewi lolote. Kila kijana atakayeonekana mitaani anaonekana kama mtu mbaya, mtu muhalifu, mwizi, muuaji. Hakuna mtu atatazama kijana na sura ya huruma ya kusema ya kwamba huyu kijana hajapata jambo fulani ndio maana yuko mahali alipo. Leo zawadi tunaopata nchi hii ya Kenya ni kuuawa. Kwa sababu ukiangalia wanaopigwa risasi ni vijana, waliojaa katika jela hizi zetu ni vijana, wanaodhulumiwa kila siku ni vijana. Ni kwa nini nchi hii isiweze kutatua shida ya vijana mara moja na kuhakikisha ya kwamba vijana hawa wamepewa nafasi katika jamhuri hii? Zabuni, tenders kwa lugha ya kimombo mnavyoziita, hazipewi vijana. Kwa sababu unaamini ya kwamba ukimpa kijana ama kijana akipata maarifa zaidi yako atakuja kukukalia, atakuja kufanya mambo ya ajabu. Hizi zabuni tunaziona zinaekwa kila siku kwenye magazeti, zinatangazwa, ni zinatangazwa tu kwa mdomo, lakini vijana wa Jamhuri ya Kenya hawapewi nafasi hii na serikali ya nchi. Kutakuwa na athari kubwa sana katika taifa hili iwapo masuala ya vijana hayatatatuliwa, kwa sababu itafika mahala ambapo vijana watachoka katika taifa hili, na tukifika hapo kurudi nyuma itakuwa ngumu. Kwa sababu saa hii ukiangalia ni kana kwamba kuna vuguvugu la tatu, vuguvugu ambalo lina njaa, lina hasira, limedhulumiwa, na sasa vuguvugu hili linaogopa kuingia katika karne ya kuitwa wazee. Sasa tukiingia katika bunge hili tulikuwa vijana chipukizi, lakini sasa tunaanza kuaga miaka hiyo ya 35 na kuanza kuenda kuitwa wazee. lakini hatujatimiza tuliloletwa kutimiza katika bunge hili, kwa sababu hiyo nafasi imekuwa ni haba. Hiyo nafasi ya kuleta idadi kubwa hapa imekuwa ni nchi zinazoendelea na kustawi duniani, nchi zinazofanya vizuri, nchi zinazotoa mfano mzuri, ni nchi ambazo nguvu kazi yake inatekezwa kwa vijana. Nchi ambayo inaendeshwa na vijana inakuwa ni nchi ambayo inakwea kisiasa, inakwea kiuchumi, na inahakikisha ya kwamba nchi hiyo inakuwa mfano bora kwa mataifa mengine. Hii nchi yetu ni lazima tuwe waangalifu, na hili swala litakuja kutuletea matatizo siku moja katika siku za usoni. Iwapo hatutawasaidia hawa vijana, basi Kenya itakuwa katika hali mbaya sana. Mimi nataka kumalizia kwa kusema ya kwamba hakika Mheshimiwa Keter, ni wazo zuri ambalo umeleta katika bunge la taifa, na mimi naliunga mkono, na natumai ya kwamba haya yote yaliyoweza kuzungumziwa na wabunge wengine yatasikizwa na kuhakikisha ya kwamba nafasi ya vijana imeweza kupatikana katika Jamhuri ya Kenya. Asante.
Honorable Patrick Musimba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to give a word on this very, very important amendment bill. At the onset, Madam Speaker, it is vitally critical to recognize the amount of resource as a nation that we bestow unto our youths. And when we see staggering figures such that 73% of this nation is composed of our youth, it lends a hand to seeing, are we setting or positioning ourselves as a country the right way. When you look at the same statistics which have been presented to us during the last census, where you see more than 1.8 million graduates are looking for jobs in Kenya. You do quick arithmetic for a graduate, and you know a graduate program costs an average of 1 million shillings over a 4-year period. Meaning parents in this nation have deployed in excess of 1 trillion shillings, which is almost a third of our national budget, towards these youth who are gravely disenfranchised. And that's just the cost of their university education. We're not talking about their costs during high school, their living expenses, and what drain has already occurred at the family level. Then it begs to follow, when you hear that the National Youth Council gets a patronage budget of only 348 million a year, where are we placing our priorities? If Kenya's parents invested in land and property using the same funds, or livestock, or other intangible investments, certainly they would have title and a way to cash back or piggyback that money to be able to make more greater investments. But the value of the certificate cannot be put into any institution in Kenya, any financial institution, to be able to give even a percentage of that back to them. Which begs us to say and really look inwardly at even the composition. As much as talking about depoliticizing the selection process of the National Youth Council, I think we need to go down to fundamentals in this nation and see how well are we indoctrinating our youths into the realities of life, and what position does innovation take in growing our country. I'll share examples of the power of innovation. A young Edison discovered electricity, and that transformed the world and yielded unto it till this day huge fortunes to the great nation of America. A young Mark Zuckerberg invented Facebook. It's changed the face of this world. You look at a young Bill Gates coming up with software that has changed this world. We look at innovations driven by our very own people like Dr. Arthur Obel, who moved fundamental movements towards the study of AIDS and AIDS research when it was a global epidemic. And the basis of that research has yielded great strides into saving humanity. We must look at the age of our innovative people, which is the young people,
and see what are we giving ourselves to take ourselves to the next level. Today, Madam Speaker, we're talking about artificial intelligence. And when you had the recent visit by Trump, President Trump to India, and Modi boasting that they are going to become a leading country in the export of military, hardware around the globe, and say they're going to take the lead in the innovations towards artificial intelligence. We need to get a council that doesn't get intimidated. When you look at the current composition, and Honorable Keter being the mover, we need to get bolder. You cannot have 8 representatives of the youth selected by a process determined by the minister, and 6 other representatives who, one, outweigh them in terms of resource, outweigh them in terms of position in this country, and they will intimidate them at the board. Absolutely. Because there's certainly a skew. We need numbers that make sense in that National Youth Council. We need to say all those bodies, be it the Attorney General, they have to propose people who have power, but are also in the youth category, so that it is momentous in the things which they want to propose and how they want to drive. And second, just to drive the point forward, we must get to be youths to get elected competitively. There's no issue about the whole essence of politics and power is to fight for allocation of resource. And the youth are at best to know what their priorities are. We need to adventure. America created great funds, and that's why today it's a manufacturing and industrial superpower. Year on year, they pumped in excess of $300 billion into their economy, saying this is all going to startups. It's not going to waste. Certainly that money is rotating within your economy. And even in this era of austerity that we are talking about, there are things you don't mess around to say, we're going to do austerity and cut budgets across the field. Where is your innovation? Where is your great strength in the name of the youth going to come from? We have to empower, and even at leadership level. Personally, my commitment to my constituencies that the next member of parliament will certainly be a youth come 2022. That's a personal vocation that I've given to the people of my constituency. Because if we are not getting these transitions right, certainly then we are not in our laurels. We have to learn from the history of this nation. We've talked ably about people like Tom Boyer. We've talked ably about the people of the stature of Stanley Jido Amatiba. We have looked at industrial leaders who are here, business titans, such as Jeremy Awori, it's not a shock that the son is running Barclays Bank, today ABSA. These are things which are generational. Today in America, we celebrate an icon called Kobe Bryant, passed away at the age of 41 years old. But the impact onto the lives of Americans in sport, it's unheard of. At the age of 18, the kid had belief in himself, transformed a sport called basketball, showed that there's hard work, there's tenacity, there are values towards success that can be given. Today, he is a person retired at 41 years of age, but the impact to the nationhood of United States of America, unseen in a generation. And we have a ton of great players who've gone through it. Today, I celebrate in the month of February.
Wind up.
Yeah, the person of people like, the Lieutenant General Baden-Powell, who came to Kenya, founded the scouting movement that inculcated in so many a will to succeed, a will to build. As such, Madam Speaker, I do support this amendment bill, but I think we need to get, as we get to the committee stage, really recognize that the youth are the future for this nation. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable members, we have come to the end of the morning session. We will still have a balance of 25 minutes to debate this motion when it comes next on schedule. Honorable members, the time now being 1 p.m., this House stands adjourned until Wednesday, 26th February at 2:30 p.m.